So this is me and Louie, primarily talking about creativity and the process of creating Horace and Pete, which I guess the only ad on this show is you can go get Horace and Pete for like $30 at louisck.net. All right, here we go. Louie, first of all, welcome to the 700th episode of my show. I don't know if you knew that was going to happen. You didn't.
No, why would I know? No.
I didn't prepare you for that. I'm putting you in the position to celebrate me and my success for a few minutes. This is the 700th episode.
You keep having to say it both ways.
Well,
is that proper to say it's the 700th episode?
Sure, I think it is. Yeah. And I'm excited you're here, but it was a surprise coincidence. And
yeah. Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, let me say that before you say thank you.
No, I thought I would set it up like this. If I go I really appreciate you coming and doing my 700th episode. That means a lot to me. I'm glad you were able to make time. Like it was planned.
Right. No, listen, I'm very proud of you. You've done... I don't think you can do anything 700 times unless it's working.
No.
You know what I mean?
Well...
Do you think there's 700 of anything that was just
shitty?
Shit? Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Well, plenty of thousands, trillions of
most things.
Yes, that's right. Boy, you fell down those stairs fast. Yeah, I am very proud of you because this is a very meaningful thing that you do. I mean, you've had a lot of really important things going on in this garage.
It's crazy, right?
Yeah.
And now
big deal things. The president...
Yeah. Was there?
Robin Williams.
I was at his house. That one.
Yeah, but I mean,
the
your
podcast.
Okay, all right.
What?
I'm trying to say something nice here.
No, I'm sorry.
No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, it's great.
I made some. Thank you.
Great. Keith Richards.
Yeah. Al Lubell.
Al Lubell. Did you really do Al Lubell? See, that is a great thing.
It's the greatest.
The people that you've brought together under one thing. It's really something, man.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. They've all done it. They've all.
Yeah.
It's weird. I actually had some notes that I left inside. Hold on.
Okay. He's actually leaving.
Weird shit on the mic when I'm not there.
He just left the garage. I'm alone in the garage. He left. He's in his house. And okay, I'll play his song. I guess. Okay.
I remember when you played guitar publicly. I can't talk today. At the Montreal Comedy Festival. I'm really fucked up. My brain's fucked up. You remember you did Cunty McShitballs?
That's right. Cunty McShitballs.
And I was like, what? Wait, why is and everyone loved it.
It's the only time I ever played guitar on stage, I think.
And I witnessed it.
Yeah, people went crazy.
Right.
Yeah.
And you'd brought your guitar to do it. I remember. No?
I did?
Is that possible?
No, I wouldn't have taken my guitar to
that was the night in Montreal where Bob and Dave did the farting Gary thing, wasn't it?
Farting Gary. Yeah, everybody was there.
Yeah.
Dom Herrera was the host.
Right. And it was amazing. And I think you just made up that song, right?
Yes.
It was like the Ballad of Cunty McShitballs.
That's right.
And everyone thought it was amazing.
Yeah, whatever, man.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it was kind of... No, it was... I remember feeling really high after. Really
happy. Because you sang and played guitar.
Yeah, that
right?
That feels good no matter what happened. Yeah, the bit was that I went on and I wore a suit.
Right.
And I did the jokes I had then that were very sort of Seinfeldian, 5 minutes on Letterman, clean jokes.
Right. Yeah.
And I was doing good, but we had planned this thing, so I had people planted around the audience. I remember one of them was Ginny Garofalo.
Yeah.
And as I'm doing my jokes that are landing solidly, people start yelling out, "Cunty!"
Oh, that's right.
Cunty!
That's right. Yeah.
And I'm like ignoring it. People once, "Cunty! Cunty!"
Yeah,
and then I get upset. I go, "Listen, I used to have this stage name, Cunty McShitballs.
Right.
And I used to come out and play the guitar and do a whole character, and it used... But I want to be a mainstream comedian now. I want to... I want to be clean and be on Letterman. I don't want to be trapped in this thing anymore. And they're just chanting, "Cunty, Cunty." And then even the audience who didn't know about it started chanting it.
Yeah.
And then I rip off the suit and I'm wearing this black T-shirt and somebody hands me a guitar.
Right.
And I sang this song, "My Name is Cunty McShitballs."
Right. That's so... Remember when no one knew who you were? You could do things.
I could do
You
stuff
could do
like
secret
that.
things.
Yeah.
But you did. You actually did that with the Horace and Pete. Now here's the deal with that.
Yeah.
For me.
Okay.
Because you came in here and we had a long conversation about Horace and Pete, and I was sworn to secrecy.
We sat in this
for an
exact
hour.
spot with even the microphones in front of our mouths without tape
and you were
rolling.
like, "You're not taping, right? You're not taping." And you told me the entire process with excitement.
Yeah.
And you didn't know what was going to happen.
That's right.
And then you were like, you can't say anything to anybody.
Right. It was a big secret.
And you didn't record this, right?
Right.
And then like a day later, you're like, nah, we fucking should have
recorded
for
it.
later, for any time.
Yeah, didn't have to play it.
Top
right away.
secret.
So dumb.
But it was, I was excited for you, and I got excited, and I watched your first episode, and then I kind of slacked, and I knew you were coming today, so I watched them all, and I watched them pretty much back to back. Like, I guess I binge watched them. I was locked in, and at the end, I did not feel great.
No, I can't imagine you would, yeah. It's not an uplifting show. It's a down pushing
It's the
show.
opposite.
Yeah.
It's the opposite of uplifting.
Yeah.
But what struck me, and I imagine what struck a lot of people, it was so relentless and bleak in a way. But because people, I imagine, ask you is it a comedy? There's no way you can say it's a comedy. It's a tragedy. It's structurally a tragedy, right?
Yeah, that's actually a very good observation because a lot of people say it's either comedy or drama, but no, there's tragedies. The other one. Yeah, those are the two masks there,
right? And it's structured that way.
It is. It's a tragedy
without spoiling the end.
Well, because there's hope, and hope is that there's no tragedy without hope,
right?
So yes, it's tragedy.
But let's I know you went on Stern, and right now you're going to be doing a tour to promote it.
Yeah.
So it only went out to the people on your mailing list. And
That's
then
right.
and the only people who, like, I retweeted, I talked about it on here. So it was a secret thing.
That's right. Especially at the outset, yeah.
But the plan was always to do what you're doing now, which is you're now like, it's out, it's finished, I'm going to promote it.
That's right.
So the questions I have about it, like, I don't want to rush or, like, I have a lot on my mind.
Yeah.
Because I've known you a while,
Yeah.
and my first reaction when I heard that you were on Stern, you said you got into debt, and it was like millions of dollars, and everybody was like, "Jesus, Louis, millions of dollars." And then I'm saying, I thought, and I've said this to people, this behavior is not unusual for Louis. The amount is different.
That's right. Because I've always
This is how he creates. He needs to wipe the slate clean and be in complete financial fear, and then he'll do something amazing. It was a plan.
That's right.
Right? But then just a higher money amount.
Bigger money amounts, and also, I figured that I wanted to play with my own money here. I didn't want to mess around with other people's money because the things I was doing were going to be very extreme. Not only the way the story was going to be told, but the way I was going to release it. Everything I did was counterintuitive.
And why would you want to involve anyone in that conversation?
Yeah, I don't want to have to convince anybody of anything or risk their money when I know that I was taking a deep risk.
Well, the thing, because you had not really, said it, you just put your other show on hiatus.
That's right.
And I imagine you had to have a conversation with Fox about this.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
And what did you say to them?
Okay, so I told John Landgraf at FX that I was going to stop doing Louis in May, I think it was late May, and I just told him that I didn't know I would ever make another one, and that I might, but I needed it to be okay if I never do.
Yeah,
I didn't want to owe it anymore.
Right,
and it was a hard thing for him to hear.
Yeah,
and it was unexpected. I had told him I was going to do at least 7 seasons. I kind of promised him that.
Yeah.
I'm only saying kind of because I'm ashamed at how much I really promised it. But anyway, I told him I just creatively, that's where I'm at, and he respected it.
Right.
And then we made we renewed my overall deal there to make other TV shows, like Baskets, Pamela's show, these other shows.
What's that going to be called?
Better Things.
Yeah.
In the fall, it'll be on. They're producing it now. It's being made now. So I renewed that deal, and he gave me a big bump and more, a better deal this second time around to make. So I figured, okay, I'm going to stop doing Louis. I'll work on these other shows for FX, and see what else comes to me. You know, So I did that, and then the summer happened, and I really cleared my head.
Yeah,
and I'll tell you about this sort of why I made the show, but you asked one question, so I'll get to that. Once I decided I was making this show,
Horace and Pete.
Horace and Pete.
How realized was it in your head?
when I talked to them about it.
Well, no, just in general. So you had that conversation, but you did not have Horace and Pete.
I did no Horace and Pete in my head.
Right.
I figured I'm not going to do anything for a while.
Right.
And then I'm having my summer, and then I started thinking about what can I do for FX? Like, I want to make something for them.
Yeah.
I started thinking of show ideas in general.
Yeah.
One of them I thought of was Albert Brooks and me doing the
animation thing.
show.
Yeah.
And we're working on that. And then I started thinking about just shows I like and things. And I watched a thing called Abigail's Party.
Yeah.
Abigail's Party you can watch on YouTube. It's like the only place to see it now.
Yeah.
Michael Lee, the filmmaker from
Genius.
England. Amazing filmmaker.
Oh, yeah.
Largely an improvisational filmmaker.
Is that true?
Well, a lot of his movies that are like real, like Secrets and
Lies, and there's so many that were so good,
incredible movies. Even Mr. Turner, the more recent one that nobody gave a shit about.
Naked.
Naked.
Oh my God.
So he was a playwright in the 70s. It's like he had this whole other great career as a playwright in the 70s where he wrote plays. That's writing.
Right.
He wrote a play called Abigail's Party.
Uh-huh.
And all it is about 4 people in the suburbs of London or wherever in England.
Yeah.
They're neighbors.
Yeah.
That don't know each other, and they have drinks.
Yeah.
2 hours
Yeah.
of one scene. 4 people
and you watched
drinks.
a production of the play?
Well, what it is they did a play. They did a TV version of the play, and this was 1973. So it looked like All in the Family, any show that was shooting back then, Maude or something.
Right, but not unusual for British. I mean, they did a lot of theater.
They did stuff like that.
I think they did Pinter stuff. They did, right, yeah, Playhouse 90 or whatever it was.
Right, and but so it looked like a sitcom, and that it was shot multi-camera. You could tell there was somebody live switching the cameras.
Right.
And you have 4 characters talking.
Audience?
No audience. That was the thing, and it was funny.
Right.
I was laughing out loud, and there's silence.
Yeah.
But it's not silence. It's like it's a sound stage. There's a living feeling to it, and it's performed, and you feel that you've seen a whole performance that never changed.
You utilize that a lot in Horace and Pete.
That's right. So when I watched that, I was like, doesn't exist in the American TV diet. It doesn't exist anywhere
anymore.
No, but here's the thing. Even Playhouse 90, the way that was produced was they'd take a play, like a known play,
right?
You know, Eugene O'Neill or something or whatever. They'd take a known play, and they would rehearse it for whatever, probably weeks and weeks, and hash it out the way that they take a play and they dissect it, whatever they do. I've never been part of that process, but I know it takes a long time.
Sure.
But to me, the idea was, what if you made a series? What if you made 10 episodes of something like this that has a hybrid? So it's episodic like television.
Right.
But the medium feels like a play. And yet also like a sitcom because it'll look robust the way a sitcom, multi-cameras, a decent set. I started thinking of this, right? After I watched Abigail's Party, and I just started turning on like my whole body. I got so fucking excited.
Now, had you had conversations with theater people? Had you met Annie Baker at this point?
I hadn't met Annie Baker. What happened was I think
you just emailed her.
I saw the play.
The flick or the other one?
The flick.
Yeah.
The only one of hers I ever saw. And then you told me you had her on your podcast. Right. And I was like, oh, I saw that play. That's a great play. And I thought I should reach out to her because I want to learn something from a playwright about this thing.
Sure.
But I think I was already working on it at the time. I don't remember where I was.
Horace and Pete.
I don't know where I was in the process. But anyway, I started thinking. I knew what I wanted it to feel like.
Yeah.
And I knew the idea of something that looks like a sitcom, the way a sitcom feels theatrical.
Right.
But with no laugh track.
Right.
That already, a sitcom with no laugh track, I was like, dang, I want to see that.
And also not the expectation to be funny.
That's
and not
right.
to write joke to joke.
That's right. And then also taking from Abigail's Party, 2 hours of talking, riveting, because you're really staying... single camera movies, they move on the cuts. They move on a big music cue.
Yeah.
Or a camera movement.
Right.
Or the ability to jump in time and space, which is something you weirdly take for granted in movies.
Well, not unlike your show.
Right. On my show,
sure.
you're talking to a guy, you're watching a guy talk, and then within the same second, you're seeing something in another time and place.
Right.
That's what moves single camera.
Yeah.
Is the editing and the cinematography. In stage plays or in multi-camera world,
No time jumps.
No,
really.
you move on the dialogue and on the on a moment, a person's mood shifting in front of you, in front of the audience.
Yeah.
Someone saying something to somebody else and that changing. A piece of news being revealed. A person entering the room. And also something accumulating, penting up for a long time.
Yeah.
I never played with this kind of shit before.
Right.
I never did it before, and I got so excited by it. And yeah, when I saw the flick, I remember nothing happens in the flick. It's three people that work in a movie theater.
One set.
And they just talk.
Right. With
about
big
life.
Pauses.
And sometimes about each other. Long pauses.
She writes them in.
The pauses.
If you look at her script,
it's
she has a glossary of pauses.
That's amazing.
Like what they mean in the script, how long each one should be. I think there's 3.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, she was doing something that I had never seen before, and I took my 14-year-old daughter to see the flick.
Yeah.
And she's 14, and she watched. It's like 4 hours long.
A few hours, yeah.
And
2.5 maybe.
I think it gets up to 3.
Okay, maybe, yeah.
So why did I say 4? But it's okay. About 3 something. My 14-year-old daughter loved it. I mean, she's a bright kid, but even then,
so that means something.
Yeah, it does. And so, okay, so anyway, I started thinking about this thing, and I'm like, well, what's it about, you know? And my buddy Dino Stamatopoulos was over, and he and I had talked about doing a show in a bar someday, and I thought, like, a bar is a good idea for a sitcom.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's been done.
Right.
And then I thought, well, I want this thing to be a bar and a home. 2 sets.
Yeah.
And I wanted them to be connected so that you could walk from one to the other without cutting the camera. Because my first thought was we never cut. We never go. It's a 1-scene episode every time. That was my first idea, which I abandoned.
Right. After like 3.
Yeah, no, there's none that are not 1 scene. Really. On the episode 3 is 1 scene. That's the only one that's 1 scene.
Right.
So anyway... then I thought, well, why would there be an apartment above a business? Well, because it's a family business. They live upstairs, they work downstairs.
Yeah.
So that's how I got to family business. And then somehow the names Horace and Pete just came
out of nowhere.
Out of nowhere. I thought, who am I? I'm not me. I don't want to play me. I wasn't even sure I was going to be in it.
Yeah.
And then I started thinking about things like I could do an episode that's 3 hours long.
Sure.
I could do an episode that's 10 minutes long.
Right.
I could do whatever I want, not on television, not on FX. I started testing this idea against everything that I'm required to do for FX, what their needs are, which are not, those are their needs.
Right.
The ad breaks.
Yeah.
Forget it. And can't do it.
Intermissions whenever you want.
Right. But on this show, if I had to do an ad break every 5 ad breaks, forget it. Having one episode that's an hour and another one that's 30 minutes, big problem.
Right.
Not as big on FX than anywhere else, but still a problem.
Right.
The language, cunt, nigger. I mean, I just knew I was going to fly around.
Yeah.
So I thought, and also, then the main thing, I didn't want to promote this show, and I didn't want to give the audience a big head start. I didn't want them to smell it before they got to it.
No expectations.
No
knowledge
at all. No knowledge or expectations.
Right.
That, forget it on FX. Forget it. So I look, and I realize, well, in my overall deal, I've got an out. I can do something on my website. It's the one place I can do something else.
Right.
But that's because they think it's going to be a stand-up special or, a cooking show with me and my mom. I mean, what would I do?
Right.
And at the
it's
time...
a website. Yeah.
Yeah, and when I started to conceive this, I thought, this will be little.
Yeah.
And then I thought about a TV studio that I worked at for my show. I shot these David Lynch episodes in a TV set that's in the Penn Hotel in New York City.
Oh, when he was the network,
the late night
guru guy. Yeah.
So I remembered that studio, and I thought we could shoot there. And I went a little crazy. I called my producer Blair Briard, and I said, "Find out if the Penn Hotel is available for January." And she said, "Okay." She called back and she said, "It is, but we're going to have to put. If you want it, you got to put a deposit down. Whatever it was, $200,000."
Yeah.
I'm like, do it. Just put the money down now. I didn't have anything written. I didn't know who's in the show. Nothing. I said, grab the studio. But here's the thing.
You wanted incentive.
I'm smart because it was incentive. But since I took the studio, about 5 different productions offered us money to walk away from it because studio space is rare in New York City.
Right.
So I could have just speculated and made a profit on that money. They would have paid the rent and given me like $50,000 just to walk away from it. But as it turned out, we wanted the studio. Okay. So... then Steve Buscemi called me.
Yeah.
We're friends.
Out of nowhere?
he and I did a benefit together for the mayor, this Made in New York thing, and he was a firefighter, and he is very active in 9/11 charities.
Yeah.
So I asked Steve one day, hey, if you ever give me an opportunity to help,
Yeah.
So he called me and said, hey, we're doing this thing for the firefighters if you want to do it. And I said, sure. And then he said, how you doing? And we'd never really chatted. I'm like, oh, I'm all right. What are you doing? Boardwalk Empire's over. Just sitting around. I'm like, oh, well, I'm doing all right. I'm writing something. We hung up.
Yeah.
And then I called him immediately back. I said, hey, do you want to be on a TV show with me?
Yeah.
And he's like, well, maybe. And I said, meet me in New York tomorrow.
Yeah.
And I drove into New York.
Yeah.
He came into the city from upstate.
Yeah. Were you out on the island?
I was out on the island.
Yeah.
And I said, I had the names Horace and Pete in my head.
That's all you had?
Yeah. And he said, and I knew it was a bar,
Yeah.
and it was a family bar. It was starting to come together.
Yeah.
And I said, I think maybe you're my brother.
Yeah.
And he said, yeah, I like that. Sounds good.
Yeah.
He said, I want to do this. I explained to him what I was at, and I was like, it's for my website. I'm going to do it very cheaply. I'm not going to tell anybody about it.
Yeah.
I said, if you get another project, you can just tell me you can't do it.
Yeah.
And he was like, okay, I want to do it. And I said, if you want to have any ideas, you can tell me what they are. Let's just try to start doing this. So he said, okay. And then I thought, we're Horace and Pete. And once I saw him and me as brothers, the lineage of the bar came to me really fast. I was like, it's a bar called Horace and Pete's.
Yeah.
And it's always been in the family. I like that idea.
Yeah.
But if we're Horace and Pete, why is the bar called Horace and... Well, because it was always called that. Generations of Horaces and Petes. I like that idea so much.
So that's all you got so far?
So I got the ideas, and I kind of know what I know what I want it to be. And then I saw a picture of Edie Falco in a magazine. Just like one of those close-up of her whole face taking up the whole page. Edie Falco has stopped. Nurse Jackie is over. Like Boardwalk Empire's over. HBO's #1 drama guy just stopped, and I got him now.
Yeah.
I've got him.
Yeah.
Edie Falco, Nurse Jackie, Showtime's #1 comedy. Just ended.
Yeah.
She says in the interview, I love episodic television. It's my favorite thing. I don't like movies. I like TV.
Yeah.
And I'm not looking for new work. I'm going to see what happens. And they asked her, would you ever be in a comedy? And she said, no, because comedies don't run deep enough. And I looked at her face in the magazine and I said, you're going to be on my show. I said it out loud like a psycho. And so then I wrote her I started writing. There's always the big test is, does it right?
Yeah.
I've had a million ideas and I sit down and nothing comes. So I sat down and I wrote the first episode and I got this. Oh, the other idea was Joe.
Does it right?
Does it right? That's the way I look at it.
Yeah.
So I thought about the other idea I had loosely years ago was Joe Pesci should be in a sitcom. That was another idea I had. Joe Pesci should have a sitcom.
And you met him, right?
Well, this is before I'd never met him.
Right.
And so I created the character for him being Uncle Pete.
Yeah.
And then I thought Jessica Lange, I sit next to her a lot at award shows, so I like Jessica Lange, so I mentioned her.
Just coincidentally?
Yeah, well, because we're both FX people. She was on Horror Hotel. So I told Steve Buscemi, what about Jessica Lange? He's like, yeah, I like her. She's great.
Yeah.
I thought about Adie Bryant because when I'm on SNL, she's my favorite cast member. They're all great, but she's great. So I just sit down and I put all these people in this bar. And I open the bar in my head.
Figure out who they are. You don't really know who they are yet.
I know that we're brothers. I know that she's our sister. I know he's our uncle.
Okay.
I know who everybody is.
Yeah.
And I just open the bar in the morning.
Yeah.
And I just start writing what happens. And I just have us saying just shit to each other. I talked to Steve about his character.
Yeah.
We had approached the idea that he's a guy who needs medication.
Uh-huh.
And that he's writing that line and it's painful for him. And without it, he's in a violent place. And so I start writing and the voices are very fucking real to me. And the place feels very real to me. And I just, it got really intense really quickly.
Yeah.
And Uncle Pete comes in and he's hilarious to me. And I'm just writing and writing. And then Sylvia walks in. It's like it was happening and I was like a stenographer just taking down notes, you know. And the first episode just was a very, I don't know how to describe it. It was like an eruption, you know?
Right.
And I finished it, and I was like, God damn, I really love this.
And you grounded everybody. The first episode, the characters are deep. They're three-dimensional.
Yeah.
And they live in the place.
That's right.
It all happens that first episode.
That's
The other
right.
characters come in, but I think the sister, the daughter, the brother, the uncle, and you, primarily.
That's right.
You're dug in. Kurt's there and Steve Wright's there, but they're Kurt and Stephen Wright. Nick. Yeah, he's Nick. A little less than Nick.
That's right. And I thought, well, there's a lot of things happening in this episode that don't feel like good first episode of a TV show ideas. Like everybody starts really yelling at each other, and there's a very intimate.
This is why you're writing.
Yeah, this is a very intimate and private conversation,
right?
And a fight inside of a family.
Yeah,
and if you don't know these people, this family, it's asking a lot of people to watch them in this kind of conflict
immediately.
Yeah, I'm not saying a lot in the way of introduction about each person. And every time I thought of something like that, I thought that this is what happened in this show for me. This feels real, and it's okay. And I've got 10 episodes to explain everything. And if people need to be told and fed everything right away, they'll go away, and that's okay with me.
Right.
This feels right.
Right.
And so I just kept writing. And at the end of the first episode, I thought I didn't explain Horace at all. I really got Pete. Well, Horace didn't do anything. And I thought to myself, I have a feeling Horace is never going to do anything.
And this is your character.
My character. And I thought, when I thought of my character, I thought I did the thing of playing a divorced dad who's really showing up for his kids.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's your phrase, too, because when I had kids, you said to me, you're doing great, because I'd had kids for a while.
Right.
And I said, yeah, I'm a dad. And you said, yeah, but, well, not all of us thought you were going to show up for this. And I realized that showing up is like an active. For a man, showing up as a father is an act.
It's a choice.
Yeah, for a woman, it's a default. I mean, that's culturally speaking. But so I thought I played that guy who showed up for the kids and stayed in divorce. And I want to play a guy who makes terrible choices and is a mess, somebody who's distant from his children, who blew it with his kids.
And also, the one thing I noticed throughout this whole thing, knowing you for as long as I have, is that, holy shit, this is unique. Louis listening a lot.
That's right. I also wanted to sit and listen to people.
Right.
I wanted to be somebody that people listen to.
And I don't mean that as an insult, but I mean, but it's not that's not your natural way.
It's not. That's right. You're right.
And you were challenging yourself.
Yeah. So I wrote the first one and I thought, damn it, this is important and good, and this is definitely what I'm doing next. But
you didn't ask yourself for meaning. You didn't require that from what you were creating, because when you do something that's 10 episodes, it's how you explained it as being inspired by theater, that all makes sense, and your intentions all make sense.
Right.
But I assume that you wrote this not unlike other things. You let it happen.
That's the way
and did not interrogate it afterwards.
Well, afterwards, yeah, but not during.
Right.
Because I don't write things like this with intention to tell people an idea.
Right.
Because I feel this, so I'm going to disguise it in a story.
Right.
Often when I write something, I look at it after and go, man, it taught me something, or I learned something from it. Or not taught, but it made me reflect.
Right. How many episodes did you write before you started the casting?
Well, so I had written Steve. Steve was in.
Mm-hmm.
I had started to try to get Joe Pesci to do it. I went to his house.
You did?
Yeah, I went to his house in New Jersey.
Now you're at a level now where people are like, you're a guy.
I can get folks on the phone. Yeah.
Yeah. So you go to Joe Pesci's house.
I went to Joe Pesci's house, and
that must have been great.
It was one of the greatest things ever. Yeah, it was really great. And by the time I wrote, I think I'd written 2.
And this is for Uncle Pete.
Uncle Pete.
Yeah.
I'd written 2.
Yeah.
And I started to know where the show was headed.
Yeah.
And I started to know everyone's backstory. I'd started to understand the family. I really knew them. And yeah, I didn't have this sense of I want to say this about people.
Right.
I did tell myself before I started writing, something I want to think about when I write this show is that there's a tension inside of everybody between the safety of being alone and wanting to be with other people. That when the closer you get to other people, you get a warmth of community.
Yeah.
But you get scared.
Yeah.
Because they can hurt you.
Right.
Or you can hurt them and let them down. Which is just sometimes worse.
And sometimes you don't have control over either of those things.
You never do. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the safety of aloneness is despair. It's very sad.
Yeah.
So I always feel myself moving to the person, away from them, move to the, or towards myself, away from myself,
right.
towards myself. And that there's something interesting about that. And that a family is that, because a family, you have no fucking choice.
Right.
And a bar and a family are the two opposite sides of that spectrum. You are fused to your family. But a bar is a way to be around other people where you're not with them. You don't owe them anything.
Yeah.
And I started going.
It's also an escape.
Yeah, that's right. From your own actual life. Yeah.
And also, like, it's a place where intelligence and things get compromised. You're serving people liquor. So
that's right.
So naturally, there's a slippery slope of what's revealed and why people are there and all that stuff. And
that's right.
Some of that you don't even have to speak to, and I don't necessarily think you did, but most of the people you covered.
Yeah. So I started thinking about stuff like that. I started going to bars.
Yeah.
To see what it's like during the day drinkers. Like at 1 PM, I'd go to a bar. I went to McSorley's in 7th Street, which was really interesting because that's been in the same family since the 1800s. And so I learned a little bit about that if I talked to them.
Right, and the convict actually, in the later episode, had worked at what was McSorley's.
Yeah, probably,
really.
right?
Right.
So most bars I found, they just have the music on and nobody can hear each other. This conversation
at night?
of people talking to each other during the day, they just have the fucking music on so that people can talk privately and no one can hear each other.
Right.
And that was kind of disappointing. I couldn't really eavesdrop on anybody because everybody was,
But you could feel it.
I could feel what it was like, and also sometimes somebody's at a bar and there's people with them that they're strangers.
Yeah.
And they'll go like, my dad raped me and now I work in finance, and people just kind of shrug, because it's anonymous, It's not Alcoholics Anonymous, it's Alcoholic Anonymous.
Yeah,
you know what
it's
I mean?
active, like it's bar behavior.
Yeah.
That happens.
Yeah. So I got interested in that idea, and then I thought of this thing of like, hey, if we make the show every week, we could throw it up really if we do this multi-camera, if we can learn how to make a good line cut that you can live with, we could throw the show up like the week we did it and talk about, there's about to be an election year. I had no idea what kind of an election year we were headed for.
Right.
When I was writing it, I didn't know what the fuck this was going to be.
Yeah.
Anyway, so all this was scrambling around in my head, and I wrote a second episode.
Yeah.
And now I'm just walking around thinking about Horace and Pete all the time. And every time I finish writing, I'm very emotionally wrought. Like it was affecting me.
Yeah.
And I just knew I had to do it. And then I went to the Emmys in September.
Yeah.
And Edie Falco had a seat open next to her. She was sitting there with the seat open next to her. So I just sat down next to Edie. And I said, hey, we've met just hello a couple of times.
Right.
I said, I'm writing a TV show. I want you to be in it. It's me and Steve Buscemi. And she said, sure. Like, like, please go away. Like, I was freaking her out a little, I think. I said, well, how can I get you to read it? And I said, I don't want to talk to your agent. I don't want to tell anybody it exists. It's a secret. And I'm not going to ask you to promote anything on the show. I just want you to do it. And she said, okay, well, she gave me her address where her mailbox is. Yeah. And when I got home from so then I turned around and there's Jessica Lange standing there.
Yeah.
And I asked her the same thing, and Jessica was like, yeah, I'll look at it, sure. Yeah. Everybody was down. Yeah. And then when I got home, I gave, I made an envelope with the scripts, just like the old days, you know? Yeah. Put my phone number in it and wrote her a letter, dropped it at her mailbox place, said, this is for Edie. She said, just tell them it's for Edie. Yeah. Gave it to her, gave it to them. 2 days later, I got a text that said, hi, this is Edie. I'm in. When do we start? She's just like, I want to do it. Yeah. And I was like, really? She said, yes, absolutely. You sent her 2 scripts. 2 scripts. Uh-huh. She was like, I'm doing this. And then I had lunch at Cafe Reggio with Jessica Lange. Yeah. And she said, well, I hope you do more with her, the character. Yeah. But I'll do it. Right. Because I'd only written a little bit for her. So now I've got Jessica Lange and Edie Falco
and Steve Buscemi.
Totally committed, although just verbally. Yeah. To do the show. And then Joe Pesci passed. And
what was it like hanging out with him?
Joe was, he's a very raw human being. Yeah. He gave me a cigarette. Yeah. And he goes, don't ever let anybody tell you these are bad for you. That's a fucking lie. Like, he really thinks it's a lie that cigarettes are bad for you. And I spent time with his family, and he takes care of them. He's a caretaker kind of a guy, but he's also fiercely protective of his privacy. He doesn't like being famous.
Yeah.
And he's a good guy. I mean, all I know is my time with him. I had a great time at his house. He's really hosted me nicely. Gave me a lot of advice, very paternal advice. Talked to me about the character at length of Uncle Pete. And eventually passed and said, you can have everything I've said to you.
Did it help you?
Yes, there's a huge monologue in this show by Alan Alda, who plays the part I had written for him. That is, Joe said that to me about going down on a woman, about oral sex. And I just couldn't believe it. When he said it, I was like, Joe, that's going to be in the show. And he goes, yeah, you can have it. And I sent him, after he said no, I still sent him a couple of scripts, and he would call me and he'd go like, listen, you fuck. Like he called me one day, you dummy, you're going to write Archie Bunker again? This fucking character has no depth. He's a fucking idiot, and it's been done. So are you going to listen to me? I'm like, yes, Joe, tell me what's wrong with Uncle Pete. And he'd tell me stuff, and I learned from him. It was great. Anyway.
So how many people do you go out to before you get Alda? How'd that work?
Okay, after Joe, I went to Jack Nicholson. Jack Nicholson.
Just because you felt like it?
I met him at Lorne Michaels' house.
Yeah.
And Lawrence been very nice to me over the years, and
Did he know about this project?
Yeah, he did. He begged me to get financing from somebody, but I said I can't. He's like, no one's going to congratulate you for paying for it. No one. And I was like, I know. I just don't want to have to talk anybody into the shit I'm doing.
Yeah.
And he's like, they'll just give you money. There's people who just give you money. I'm like, I don't want to do it. He's like, all right. But so I asked him for Jack Nicholson's phone number, and he said no, but I'll pass something on to him. So he gave him the scripts.
Yeah.
And Jack called me and said no. But
when you got that
I
call?
get personal no's now. That's where I'm at.
Right, but your phone rings.
My phone rings, and this woman says, I'm looking for Louis C.K. I said, who's this? I'm calling for Jack Nicholson. If it's not you, I'm hanging up now, or something like crazy like that. And I was like, yes, it's me. So Jack comes on and he just says, I just wanted you to know the writing is terrific, but I'm not going to do it. And I was like, oh, well, can I convince you? He's like, you know what I did today? I went out to the tree in my yard and I sat under it and I read a book. And when I was done, I went back inside. And I was like, all right, it was nice talking to you. But anyway, we chatted for a while. But he said no. And then I thought of Christopher Walken.
Right.
And his agent is also Edie Falco's agent.
Yeah.
And Edie's agent had been sworn to secrecy. I'm really impressed, by the way, with all the agents of everybody. These are all Hollywood agents. None of them told anybody about the show.
Yeah.
So Edie's agent, Tony Howard, gave the script to Chris Walken, who said that he really liked it, but that he thought it was too easy for a guy like him to play this part.
Right.
He's done guys like this.
Yeah.
He said, tell Louis, why don't you get somebody who you would never expect to do this?
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, I could see that. And she said, how about Alan Alda? Said Tony Howard. And I said, I don't think so. She said, why? And I said, I think Alan is the greatest.
Yeah.
But he's not right for this. And she said, well, meet him or let him read it with you. I go, I'm not going to do that to Alan Alda. I either hire Alan Alda or I leave him alone.
Yeah.
She said, Alan loves to work. And I'll give him the script. Just let him read it.
So she's doing an agent's job.
Yes.
Yeah.
So he read it. And he wrote me an email. And he said, I really love the material. I'd love to talk to you about it. And if it's not right for me or I'm not right for it, I'd love to find that out as quickly as possible.
Right.
But let's talk.
Yeah.
So he came over to my house.
Yeah.
And he's a great guy.
Yeah.
And he's really serious and into his work. He's a real artist.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to see Uncle Pete in him.
Yeah.
I was like, so how would you play it? He's like, I don't think about it that way. I don't intellectualize it. I just start doing it. Like he wouldn't tip his hand.
Right.
And I was like, fuck. How's this guy Alan Alda gonna go? Cox is niggas and pissants. Like what?
Yeah,
no, it's not him.
Alan Alda's not that
I'm
guy.
like, he's not that guy at all. It could be a huge mistake.
Yeah.
But then I'm looking at him. I'm like, Alan Alda's in my house.
Yeah.
I love every single thing he's done.
Yeah.
Everything.
Yeah.
And he wants this.
Yeah.
So I said, let's just do it. And he went, really? I said, yeah. I want you to do it. He said, are you sure? I said, yes.
Yeah.
And he left, and then Tony called me and said, Alan's concerned. He says you gave him the part, but he doesn't think you really want him to do it. I said, I want him to do it. And so, anyway, I'm talking too much, but I had all the big four.
Yeah.
Steve, Edie, Jessica Lange, and Alan. Had him cast.
But you hadn't done a read-through.
At this point, I had read four. I had killed Uncle Pete. I hate to give a spoiler, but I'll do this one just to tell the story.
Yeah.
I killed him in episode 4 so that Pesci would do it, because he said 10 episodes was too much.
Yeah.
And after Pesci walked away, I was like, 4 actually makes sense for him. This makes sense for the character. This character being such a looming figure, and then dying is a huge, great thing to do to who's left.
Right. Nice void.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Voids are fucking great for tragedy and drama.
Yeah.
So, and then Alan was going to Australia right after episode 4. We already had it scheduled at this point. So it worked out. Okay. So now, I realize, and meanwhile, the FX deal that I've been putting together, where I'm about to sign it, it's final. They're being really nice to me.
Yeah.
Generous amount of money, really decent terms.
Yeah.
And I realize this is not a little webisode series.
Yeah. You've got 4 major actors.
4 huge actors. One of their Emmy Award-winning actresses, Jessica Lange. And that's not on FX. Yeah. And I'm about to sign this deal, and I'm in it.
Yeah.
And I just walked off of the air on FX.
And you got to tell them.
I was like, this is fucked up. I legally don't have to tell them, but there's no way.
You want to have that tension.
I can't do it.
Yeah.
And it was my stomach my stomach lining is just, I'm just shitting it out. And I'm like, I got to have this conversation. I had it many times in my head.
Yeah.
And I thought, God damn it. There's no good version of this.
Yeah.
You know, at one point you start trying to say, how can I say this? And then you go, this is no good way to say it.
Right.
Because I have to make the fucking show.
Right.
And I have to make it this way.
Yeah.
And I have to make it. I'm not telling anybody.
Right.
This is all the only way to do it. So I called John Landgraf. And I said, listen, man. I said, I'm about to sign this deal with you and make it final.
Yeah.
I need you to know about this before I sign the deal. I didn't ask him, can I do this show? I said, I'm making this show.
Yeah.
But you need to know it before we sign the deal. Yeah. And I realize that this is really disruptive, but it's creatively what I believe in.
Uh-huh.
So I don't have a choice, and I want it. I want to do this. So whatever you do with the deal, I really want to make those shows for you on the network, but I'll understand whatever you want to do with the deal I'll understand.
Yeah.
I hope you decide to sign the deal.
Yeah.
But I can't have you sign it without knowing about this.
Yeah.
So he said, well, this is a lot you need to give me some time to digest this.
But you didn't tell him about the show.
Oh, no, he asked me, what's the show about?
Yeah.
Because I think he wanted to know that I wasn't doing just Louis on my own network.
Right.
And I told him it's about a bar and 2 brothers that own a bar. And that was satisfying to him that it wasn't the same ground.
Yeah.
And he said, all right, let me think about this. And then he called me like a few days later and he said, walk me through deciding not to do Louis and then deciding to do this. Like, just take me through. And I told him basically the story I just told you.
Yeah.
And he said, I don't want to get in your way, and I like the work we do together. So it's fine. And I was very glad that I did that.
Yeah.
Okay, so then I'm writing, and I've got more cast together, and we get the studio. We start talking about what the bar looks like.
Yeah.
The more and further I went into it, and I'm telling John Landgraf now everything. Like, I told him I'm killing Uncle Pete. I'm telling him all this stuff. And after a while, I see him chuckling and going like, listen, man, I'm so glad you're not doing this on my, like, it just was like, why would he want to be taken for this ride?
Right.
And eventually he said to me, not only am I supportive of this, I'm rooting for it.
Yeah.
I love, and he was just into that I was doing things this way.
Yeah.
So, okay. Annie Baker, I called her, I wrote her an email.
Yeah.
And said, I really love your play, and I thought maybe I want want writing this. Because I want to write this with somebody. Yeah. And I also thought, I'm doing this as a collaboration on stage. Maybe I could collaborate when I'm writing it.
Right.
So I wrote her and I said, do you maybe want to work on this thing with me? And she was in Iceland. She wrote back and said, hey, I'm a fan of your work, and let's meet. So we met. I gave her the first 3 scripts. No, the first 2.
Yeah.
And she loved them. And she said, this is really great. And I said, well, will you write on it with me? Like, be a writer on the show. And she said, I don't know if I can do that. And she went away a bit and thought about if she could write. And she came back and said, I don't think I can do that, like write for you on your show.
Right.
And I said, I'm glad, because I don't think I could let you write on my show. I don't think anybody else could write it. Yeah. I said, can you just come to my house sometimes and sit with me? I have the way that I use help as a writer, have somebody sit on my couch and just be there to talk to.
Who do you use? Like Vernon?
Vernon Chapman. Stephen Wright did it on my episode, on my series Louie.
Yeah.
Pamela has done that for me, Pamela Adlon.
Yeah.
On this thing, I didn't have anybody. Vernon I had. Vernon was helping me that way. But so Annie's great contribution to the show was that after 2 episodes, I decided I want to do an episode where 2 people talk for the whole episode.
Yeah.
And you never walk away.
And at this point, most of them are around 30 to 40 minute long.
The first one was 65 minutes. The second one was 45.
Right.
So I wanted to do one where it's 2 people talking. And my first idea was it was 2 people in the bar that aren't connected to the characters. Just like 2 patrons of the bar talk for 30 minutes, episode 3.
Right.
And Annie and I talked about it. And she said, I think it needs to be people on the show. But maybe you introduce a new character.
Yeah.
And so I started thinking of that. And then I thought of this woman who I met at the Emmys also.
Yeah.
Who's a brilliant actress. I don't want to say her name. And I thought she could maybe do it. And she likes me. So and I thought, what if I think of something for her? So I came up with this idea, this area, and I started telling Annie Baker this idea.
The ex-wife.
The ex-wife.
Yeah.
And this thing about a confession and people sharing culpability and, you know. And we both were like, this is really fucking exciting. And it was through dialogue with Annie of talking about it and describing to her the area I wanted to go into, and her saying, yes, you got to do that, you got to do that. And Annie said very early on, I feel like this starts with a shot of this woman who's a new character, and you don't know who she is. Yeah. And you don't know who she's talking to. And you also, like, don't, even though you know the actress, it takes a minute to identify her. Oh, definitely. Because she's, you know, dressed down. Well, that's an interesting thing, because the original actress is somebody you would have gone, boom, you would have known who that is. Right. It literally through the entire episode, which was really one of the best performances ever anywhere, in my recollection. I think that's true. I do too. And I'm like, is that Laurie Metcalf? Is it her? I don't even know if it's her. Who is that? Is it a New York actress? Like, I could not identify her. That's right. For almost the whole thing until I saw the credits. That's right. And like when you watch that thing, I know that I see that other people have responded in similar ways than I have. You're like, what the fuck? Mm-hmm. Like, you know, you can't even explain that performance, where it came from. But, you know, the detail that you gave her to work with was insanely nuanced. Well, the place I had gotten to with this, like, so what Annie and I talked about was the idea of an a divorced couple that have a lot of distance. Yeah. Their kids are growing up. They have no reason to talk anymore. Right. And that one of them I always had this idea in my head that Horace did something terrible to break up the family. Yeah. Just awful. Right. And that she's the victim of that. Yeah. So she is now, in her later life, doing something terrible in her new family. And also significantly older than you. So the backstory of you unfolds. Which came because the actress who I wrote it for was older than me. Yeah. And I thought, well, that's interesting to me. That Horace is younger than his wife. And that's not a reason, but it's part of what went into his not handling the marriage and being a father. Right. He was a young father. Right. And so that idea, and I was like, when I started setting that up, I thought she comes to him to ask him how to handle doing a terrible thing because he did one to her. I thought, that's fucking huge. And that's where Annie and I were at. And I thought, I know where this is going generally. Now I'm just going to go write it. Send her away. It's the last time I saw Annie on the project, because until we shot the thing months later, because she had something going on in her life, I couldn't get her again after that. So I sat down, and she had given me this thought of the woman's face, and you don't know who she's talking to, and I thought, okay, let's let her talk for a while. And so I started telling the story, and this is what it was like to write this show. I sat down and I started telling the story through her voice of where they were at, this house, and what it was like, and why they went there. It comes out of nowhere. You don't know why she's telling the story. You don't know anything. You don't know a single thing.
If you're watching in order, you just like, what's happening?
The power of this show to me and the way I wanted to do it, and especially once I started writing it, how vital it was that it be a secret was because of the episodes like this where it was like, you won't know why you're looking at this person. You won't know how long you're likely to look at them. You don't know who they're talking to. You don't know how many episodes this show is. You don't know what this show is. It's only 2 episodes deep into it. You don't know why you're watching it. I knew that people would call, like we had to, when I first put the show on the air, huge amounts of press called my publicist, who honestly said, I don't know what the fuck you're talking about, because I didn't tell him it existed. I wanted him to be credibly ignorant. He knew no idea. Okay, so
right? You mean when you dropped it?
When I first dropped it. Right. So if you're a person watching this, you're just like, you saw one and you're like, I don't know what.
Did you send him a nice bottle of wine or something?
He's great. He handled it very well.
Okay.
And then the second episode, you go, okay, I guess there's a rhythm.
Yeah, I guess it's episodic.
The first one's like its own thing.
Yeah.
The first one is like its own play.
Yeah.
And then the second one is like, I guess we're going to watch these people for a while.
Yeah.
It's kind of a holding pattern episode.
Yeah.
Then the third one, you go, who the fuck is this? She's been talking for 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And I don't know who she's talking to. And I'm getting a boner from her story. And she looks really upset and nervous. I don't know why. All these things. The stirring up questions in somebody's head, exciting all their fucking brain with wonder and confusion. These are great feelings to feel from a TV show.
Yeah.
They don't exist because they want to land you safely in every single moment.
Right,
you know?
right.
So this was a great opportunity for that. So she's talking. I'm writing it, and I'm on pins and needles because I'm watching the scene as I'm writing it.
Not for Lori.
No, not for Lori. For somebody else. But I'm in my head thinking about this thing that she's laying there, and that he drives up. And that she spreads her legs open, and that was an act. She didn't spread them for him. She spread them for her own luxury of aloneness. And that here he comes, and now what do I close them? Here comes this man, this old man, and I'm letting him look. And do I open my eyes? And every single little detail of that was freaking me out as I wrote.
The brush on the wall, dude.
What's that?
The paintbrush.
Yeah, the paint. I mean,
that was like,
I lived all these moments as I was writing them. The paintbrush, and she's like trying to touch herself, and I'm like, and I was getting hard while I was writing it, and then I finally get to where Horace goes, why are you telling me this? And then the tension breaks, and she goes, well, you know, I never thought about what you went through during that time. And Horace is like, what the fuck? This is a funny way to bring this shit up. We never talked about it. We just broke up, you know?
Yeah.
And then I thought, go to the bathroom, Horace. Just go to the bathroom. Everybody calm down for a minute. And that's where I started putting intermissions in the show. So,
right.
Intermission.
Yeah.
Come back. All right. So, he starts telling her the real truth.
Right, and you're filling in all this backstory
about Horace, who you've been watching.
Right, and that's how you fill it out, by listening, and then by addressing it. But even all of your stuff is relatively minimal in terms of your vocal engagement.
Yeah, I don't say very much at all.
Right, but you cry, you react, you listen. And in the episode where you play your own father, that is a completely different set of challenges as an actor.
Yeah.
And also, like, what I always wonder about something this expansive is, are you considering the psychology of these characters? Like, when you look at Horace as an adult, do you from the get-go, do you believe he had an abusive childhood, or is that something you discover?
Well, I think that there was an abuser, was the head of the household.
Right.
And that was the cycle of the family. And, I mean, I grew up with a dad who hit everybody. He just hit everybody.
Yeah.
And that's what a family was like when I was growing up. And the mother hit just out of desperation.
Right.
And the kids had strange relationships of trying to sort of comfort each other and stay away from each other and stuff like that. So I knew that was a backdrop. I knew that that's part of what drove these kids apart. Mm-hmm. And that's part of what drove Horace and Pete together.
But even the detail of the Pete character's childhood with the glasses and the filling of the glasses.
Yeah.
Where the fuck did that come from?
Okay, so
like that you're establishing that he had mental problems early on that had not.
It was a big deal to me that Pete had a mental that he had a disorder.
Yeah.
And I gave that a lot of thought. I talked to a guy who works in a doctor of abnormal psychology to ask to just run some of this shit by him.
Yeah.
And he checked most of it. He said the stuff that you have, there's some that's accurate, and the stuff that's inaccurate is in the right ballpark and borrowing from other types of, you know what I mean? Like you said, it all makes sense.
Right.
So, Pete, to me, that thing of Pete having this madness that he fights against, and that that his nature is that he's just a good guy.
Yeah.
He's a caring guy. He's courageous.
Yeah.
He's vain, you know? When he says to his date, I know the left side of my face is handsome. You know, he's got a good heart and strong confidence as a person, but he keeps getting shattered by this fucking madness inside of him. And that's a really hard, terrible thing. It's just a bad toss of the dice.
Yeah.
And I don't think most people end up beating it in the end.
Right.
And I kind of knew right away when I was writing this, I think this shit's going to take Pete. I don't think Pete's going to make it. On some level, he's not going to make it.
Yeah.
And that was really hard because I really got I got so involved in these things. Every time I wrote an episode, I tried not to make phone calls or talk to anybody because I would start talking like the characters and stuff like that. But anyway, but about the glasses. So, when I wrote the last 2 episodes, I wrote the first 8. I just wrote them on a schedule, one after the other, because it was just coming out of me. Then I got to episodes 9 and 10, and I knew what they were going to be. I knew what was going to happen in the end. And when I wrote episode 8, where Pete gets some bad news, I sent it. I gave the cast the scripts as soon as I wrote them,
because they had to shoot next week.
No, this is before I wrote them all ahead of time.
Oh, okay.
So this is like in October.
And now knowing you and knowing the stuff that you've taken chances on previous and some of it not being made, how impulsive was it? How much editing was there when you did a draft?
Well, I would write. I don't do a lot of rewriting in my life at all. But I thought I gave a lot of forethought. I thought very carefully about these things before I wrote them.
Yeah.
I worked harder on these scripts than I've worked on anything in my life.
Yeah.
I wrote the first 8, and then I sat down and thought out 9 and 10. Yeah. And when I wrote 8 and Pete gets this bad news, I gave it to Buscemi, who wrote me, and he said, or I think he called me, and he said, look, I don't have high hopes for Pete after reading this. And he said, it doesn't seem like he's got much of a chance in life. And after we killed Uncle Pete, anything could happen. Right. And I just want you to know that that's okay with me. Because at this point, I thought, we're on season 1. This is season 1.
And this is also the guy that made Trees Lounge.
That's right.
This is his wheelhouse.
This is a guy who's done, he's got an incredible body of work.
Yeah.
So he said that, and I thought, I don't know. Because it was hard to think of, like, I don't want to take this part away from Steve. I don't want to take his character into this terrible place. Because I'm hiring all these people. They're all taking a chance on me. Edie and Steve and Jessica and Alan they're giving me the first quarter of their year, which is a lot from actors of that caliber. And I thought, I want to do this show for years. That's what I originally thought. But every time I took a big dramatic or tragic turn in the show, I thought the only thing that keeps you from doing that in a sitcom or any series is that you need to stay within the margins on a series so that the show stays the same so it can stay on the air. Right. The decision to not make big moves on a television show is an economic decision to make more product. But as a writer, you just want to be able to say, I don't give a fuck what happens to anybody as long as it's important, as long as it works in the writing. Yeah. So I thought about 9 and 10, and I was like, oh fuck, I know how this ends. I know what happens at the end. Yeah. I don't want to do it. I don't want this to end like that. I don't want it to, but I have a feeling it's gonna happen. So I stopped writing at 8. I said, I'm not going to write 9 and 10. Yeah. I want to start making the show and see if I can come up with a better 9 and 10 that gives the show a longer life and gives the characters a better outcome. So we started making the show, and once in a while I'd go back to 9 and 10, and it just kept. So you're shooting week to week. You're knocking them out in a week. So I've been having people come to my house. The whole cast, they come to my house and they read. Yeah. The big 4. Yeah. And then people like Mark Normand, Lisa Traeger, who's just a comic who started at the Cellar recently. Yeah. I liked them, so I had them come to read the parts at the bar. Lisa, I didn't know what I was going to put on the show. I was like, could you come and read one line, but read a bunch of other characters? Lisa Traeger. She's a comic. I like her.
Right.
Michelle Wolf, really funny, strong comic, funny voice. Come on and read this part, and Tom Noonan, who I'd used in my other show.
Great actor.
Fucking great actor. Got him involved. Stephen Wright, Kurt Metzger. So I started, but I didn't tell them what they're doing. I said, just come to my house on Monday.
And then out of nowhere, we get Burt Young.
Yeah, exactly, Burt Young. So they all come and they sit down at my table and we all read. And over the whole fall, I read this episodes again and again, read them as much as I could. I had this thing in my head from All That Jazz, the movie, where he's running a dance again and again.
Yeah.
And he's like bent over at the waist with a cigarette hanging out of his mouth. He watches them pour their hearts out.
Yeah.
And then he just goes, do it again. Do it again. And I thought, I got to be that good on this. And I did it to myself on the scripts. I'd read through them, do changes, cut little things, make it better, make it better, make it better. I said, this has to be fucking great. So I worked like that. And then now it's time, when it gets to be January, we've worked really hard. We haven't made anything. We haven't made a single fucking thing.
Yeah.
And I try to figure out this workflow. How do we make this show? How do we actually do this?
Yeah.
How do we deliver the show on a weekly basis?
Right.
Obviously, I'd left spots, like a lot of dialogue at the bar was like TBA because I wanted to see what happened in the news. And we would run that. Like Tuesday, I figured we'd figure out what we're going to talk about in terms of current events.
Right.
So that's generally what I did. So
that would run through Kurt and...
That's right.
Yeah.
So we've got 4 cameras and a control room. And I'm the director. And I'm used to directing myself, but I need a live switch. I need the cameras to be switching from one to the other in a way that we're going to be able to use on the air.
Yeah.
So we start rehearsing it, and every time I'm looking over at the cameras. Every time somebody talks, all the cameras come over to that person.
Right.
And then another person talks, and they all go over there.
Yeah.
It was fucking madness. And we're not Saturday Night Live people. I mean, they know what they're doing. We don't know how to do it. So I sat in the control room the first week, and I sent the cast home and replaced them all with stand-ins and ran the scenes with stand-ins.
Yeah.
And there was these highlighters sitting on. I'm sharing this because I want to open source the show because anybody who wants to do this should be able to do it.
Right.
There were these highlighters on the counter of the control room, all colors. So I had 4 highlighters, one for each camera. And what I did was I colored the dialogue on the script with the color of the camera that should be covering that dialogue.
Oh, yeah.
And I walked through the show. And every time that a camera's position switches, like next to the dialogue, I wrote, a single on Edie. So that's what camera 1's assignment is.
Yeah.
And then the next time you see camera 1, if that assignment has changed, you go 3-shot Edie,
right.
Steve,
Right. You created a system.
That's right. And I invented one. And I had so many times during making this show where I thought, it can't be done. The first week, I was like, we can't do this.
Yeah.
No one can make a show this fast of this breadth. We can't do it. But we figured it out. And after the first one, we realized we all know how to do this now.
Right.
So
working with real pros.
Yeah. Oh, and I mean, the actors fucking forget.
And when did you, like, whatever skeptical feelings you had about Alan?
Oh, yeah. So Alan, the first time we read the first 2 scripts, I took a bunch of fucks out.
Yeah.
Because I thought he's not going to be able to say these things.
Because Alan Alda.
Yeah, Alan Alda. And, he came with a whole other guy, and he read it, and I was like, I had pins and needles in my body as he read it. And then we read episode 2, which I hadn't edited, and he said fuck and cocksucker and all this stuff, and I was like, this guy's incredible. This guy's like, and he was wearing these big glasses, and I was like, God, I hate this guy so much. I hate him, because we were reading, a lot of the scenes are me and him, and he's being mean to me, and I'm like, fuck, I hate Uncle Pete. And I couldn't believe it. And I said to Alan one day, I'm not going to talk to you about this character or anything. Just do what you know what you're doing. So, let's just enjoy ourselves. And that's the way it went. I never had to talk to him about it. I had very few. You always want to be able to help a little. And direction is a good beacon for people.
Right.
So I was able to tell Alan sometimes, like, here's a way to go with it. And he would always be grateful for that.
Right.
But he invented that fucking character. It's not what I had in my head. It was something a billion times better.
Yeah.
And he just, every time he showed up, it was better and better. And the week of the show, when he walks in, and, the whole thing I had with music and stuff was about turn on the jukebox in the beginning, let the show feel like, you're watching the show, right? You don't know what it is. You just got an email from me. This is this show.
Right.
You put it on.
Yeah.
I don't know what the fuck this is. These two guys are dancing. They look like idiots.
Yeah.
Stephen Wright walks in, puts his own napkin down and gets a drink. It's just dead. They're sitting there drinking coffee. Nothing's going on. What is this shit? And then somebody walks in and puts music on the jukebox. And now it's getting lively. Okay, the place filling up. Okay, so this is going to be a show about a bar, and it's going to always have music coming out of that jukebox. It's going to be live.
Yeah.
They're talking about football.
Right.
And then this guy walks in and unplugs the jukebox, and the place dies. It just it dies, and then it's dead till he dies. I mean, it's dead like that. And for most of the series, it's dead.
Yeah.
So that's who Alan was. He was this joy killer, you know? And at the same time, I knew there was a time where he really made the bar sing. He made it great, you know? He tells the baseball story about Horace. And it's like this thing. He used to be able to tell stories like nothing and make people laugh. Story. It's terrible. It's so vicious.
But, you know, you were able to service a lot of the things that, you know, you struggle with and are important to you. Cultural conversations about race, about gender, about sexuality, about politics, you know, about the bleakness of life, about how life changes and how people change. I mean, all that stuff is there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, in looking at the span of it, you know, you were able to use Amy Sedaris in almost an angelic way.
She was an angel.
Right.
And I didn't know that. I didn't know she was going to be that.
Oh, you didn't?
No, but, and I feel like I didn't service the question you asked me about the glasses, because I was taking too long to get
Well, it's just
there.
a detail.
But okay, so when I was ready I realized I have to write 9 and 10 now because there's no escape from 9 and 10. They are what they are. I realized that 10 didn't have a lot of content. It wasn't actually very much. I just knew what happens at the end. And then I thought, what if we go back to 1976 in Horace and Pete's? 2016, 1916 when the bar was open, and now let's go to 1976, somewhere in the middle.
Bicentennial quarter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I thought, what if we go to the day they left? What if we go to the day that Horace and Sylvia were taken away and Pete was left behind? Which is sort of what informs the whole story.
Yeah.
And so I thought, okay, and then it's...
You're playing your father, Edie, your sister's playing your mother.
She's playing my mother, and Pete's going to play Uncle Pete as a young man.
Great job on that, he did.
He was amazing. So, and then I thought, then when you get a whole new set of bar patrons, and this time it's fuller and it's more alive. Like in 76, it was fun. It's not fun anymore.
Right.
That's what I wanted to
Active
sort of
conversation, not threatening, not foreboding, not malignant.
Immediately I knew George Wallace.
Yeah.
And then I thought about Colin.
Yeah, Colin was great.
And I met with Colin, and he told me about 2 hours of stories of New York in 1976 when he lived in Brooklyn at that time. It was great because he said to me, your bar was on Court Street. Yeah. Like he put my bar, he said it was on Court Street near the municipal buildings downtown. And he told me all about having a girlfriend in Trump Village in 1976. And so I extracted all this shit from Colin. Credit to him because he told me great stories like the one he tells about gang members chasing each other. And I wrote his character. And then I thought about David Blaine, who'd I run into once in a while. Yeah. The guy doing a magic trick and freaking out Uncle Pete. Right. And then I thought there should be also an old guy like we had. And then I thought about Burt Young. And I asked my agent, just call Burt Young's agent and tell him we have this. You just sit in a stool and you'll say some shit. I don't want to send him a script. And he said yes. Burt Young, you know, his guy's name is Horace, and my guy's name is Horace. So he memorized the script and he thought all my lines were his lines. Oh, which was fine. Yeah, because sometimes we both say something at the same time, which is funny. Yeah, and also he was better than there's a bunch of my lines. Most of the things that he says, old Horace, were my lines. I just let him have them. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, so the abuse. Yeah. And the glasses. Yeah. So I'm playing this guy who abuses everybody in his family. Yeah. And I've never done that. Yeah. And I don't know how someone does it. Yeah. And every time I would sit alone, I'd make sure no one was looking, and I'd read the lines out loud, and I couldn't do it. Hurt. Well, I thought I'm not this guy. It was just I couldn't authentically go like, you know, what are you doing? Right. Like, what am I going to try to sound like I'm from Brooklyn? Right. What are you doing? Well, you got a little Boston in there, though. Yeah, a little bit. And so then I thought I might have to replace me.
Yeah.
And that's weird if I'm the only one not playing the older guy.
Right.
So then Edie comes to the set one day and we just look at it. She goes, "Can I ask you about the 76 stuff?" And I said, "Yeah." She was great at talking about the material. So I said, "Let's read it out loud." So now I'm looking at Edie, who I've been working now with for 8 weeks, who I've gotten a tremendous amount of respect and affection for, who I really love and I believe is my sister from all the time of playing the parts. Mm-hmm. And now I look at her, she's my wife. It's easy to feel that way.
Yeah.
I love her. I trust her.
Right.
And it's easy to be mean to her.
Right.
I just go, what are you doing? You fucking liar.
Yeah.
It was easy.
Yeah.
Because I trusted her. And I realized that's what abusive people do.
Yeah.
They just go, she loves me. She loves me.
Fuck her.
Fucking whore.
Yeah.
It was so easy. It was horrible. Grabbing her. But I remember when we were rehearsing and I was dragging her by the back of the hair through the bar. Mm-hmm. I was saying to everybody, I'm dragging a national treasure by the back of her head. I felt terrible. But in filming it was easy to do.
It's brutal.
Yes, it is. So then this kid, I thought Pete's going crazy. He's just going crazy at 13.
He has no control over it. Mental problem.
That's right. He gets a thing in his head, he can't get rid of it. So I thought of these two details. One is that he ripped the faces out of some pictures and then hid them. Mm-hmm. And the other is that he gets told by somebody he's got to fill every glass with water in the house before the sun comes up.
That was just a device you came up with.
That's all. And then there was this thing, the way the kid did it, of
He's very good. Yeah.
And he's laying the glasses out in rows.
Yeah.
That kid was so goddamn good.
Yeah.
I walk up to him and all I said to him was, "When I take my glasses off, you're going to get hit."
Yeah.
Because we did versions where I did a stage slap.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I can't do it.
Yeah.
I can't do it.
Yeah.
So I take off my glasses and the way he stops is horrible.
And then you cut away and just hear no.
Yeah, you just hear slapping and no.
Yeah.
So, okay. Anyway, when we did that and we did the last episode, I got really wrecked by it. It was really hard.
Well, you could see you getting wrecked throughout it.
Yeah.
That, it started
really
to
hard.
chip away at you.
That's right.
So, like, for me, in my experience of it, and it's got nothing to do with who me and you are, but, like, as seeing it as a piece, it seems like you did some, like a version of the great American tragedy. That you created this masterpiece of what feels like theater. And then you sort of redefine the parameters of television. But I think that does a disservice to what you did in a way. That you shot it, so beautifully and so specifically that the experience is theater. That the space and, you let things sit. And this is not stuff that I know for you is easy. It's not easy for you to listen. It's not easy for you to cry. It's not easy for you to be abusive. And so the challenges for yourself were huge.
Well, they were, and the listening is the big one, because I didn't make myself cry in any of these scenes. It's not written when she's telling Horace about her son, about his son, who doesn't speak to him. Yeah. It's not written that he cries. There's no reaction written. It's just her lines. And when she said them, I just bawled. I couldn't control it. Yeah. And on every take, we do 3 takes, but I really lost it when she's telling me about my son and how he's happy.
And wait, what about Laurie Metcalf? Were you just astounded? So
the woman who I wrote it for couldn't do it.
Yeah.
And I started thinking of people, and Laurie Metcalf's name kept coming up. And I knew that she was a great actress. Yeah. And I wasn't sure it was her. And then I saw a piece from her show called Getting On. Yeah. And I saw her do this. I don't remember what the scene was about, but it was just great. Yeah. And I was like, why didn't I? She's perfect. There's nobody else that can do it. And then I got panicked because I thought, now I'm probably not going to get her. Because now that I know it's her, I'm not going to be able to get her. Yeah. This is way back in October before we started shooting. And so, I don't remember exactly when, but so somebody got her the script. I emailed her. I tried to get it to everybody personally because I didn't want anybody to fucking know about the show. So I wrote her and said, please don't tell anybody about this. Please read it and please do it. Yeah. We can do it on a Monday. She was in a play. Yeah. So she wrote me back and said, I'm already memorizing it. Mm. And I said, great, I'm so excited. And I never spoke to her again, never met her. She just took the part
Yeah.
And then that was it for that. Then episode 3, because episode 3 was just me and her talking. So
Yeah.
there was nothing to do.
Yeah.
There was no logistics to it.
So, but you had no experience previous to the scene of what she was going to do with it.
No idea. No idea.
So you were just sitting there going, what?
Yeah, so episode 1, episode 2, and putting the show out, absorbing the reaction from the show, all of the freakish life of all of that.
Yeah.
Now it's time for episode 3, and I'm like, fuck, I got to do episode 3 now. That's Lori. That's right, Lori's doing it. Fuck, I hope this is good. I never talked to her.
Yeah.
Probably should have brought her in a few times. So she came the Friday before we shot it. We shot it on Monday. She came in on the Friday before, and she sat down and she read it with me. And I thought, Jesus motherfucking Christ.
Yeah.
This is really huge.
Yeah.
This is a huge thing. And I didn't know it because I hadn't looked at the script.
Yeah.
I don't know the lines.
Right.
And she needs me to just catch and throw and toss back.
Yeah.
That's all I have to do, and I'm not ready to do it.
Yeah.
And God damn it, I didn't know what this was. I forgot about it.
Yeah.
And when she read it, I was like, she's vulnerable. She's ashamed. She's turned on. She's scared. God damn it. And I thought, this is the biggest thing I ever did is just this one stupid dialogue. This is the most important thing I'll ever do.
Right.
And we're doing it on Monday. And I'm really tired.
Yeah.
And so over the weekend, I got as many people as I could get to come over and read with me. I don't prepare.
Yeah.
People came over and read it with me. I had to know it perfectly. I read it again and
to be there for
again
her.
and again, just for her.
Yeah.
I got nothing I have to do but
but-
not fuck her up. Because she needs to do this all of a piece.
Yeah.
And the hardest, talk about listening.
Yeah.
10 minutes of looking at an actor telling you a story where you're not on camera, where you're just trying not to derail them.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I took all weekend, worked on it. And then on Monday, it was like a closed set, like when you do a sex scene.
Yeah.
That's what I told the crew.
Yeah.
No one unnecessary on set. Quiet. And I set up the shots and the sort of game of how to shoot it. And then she came in and then we sat down and it was dead quiet in that fucking place. Oh, Alan Alda coming in at the end. We had shot that already because he left town.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we sat down and did it the first take. I figured we'll get a few takes in. First take, we kind of had it. I mean, she kind of nailed it on take 1.
Yeah.
And I was like, God damn it, Lori. Okay, let's do one more. Second one is far better. And that's all we ever did of the first half of this episode is 2 takes. And then we did another one of the second half, the dialogue between me and her. And when she told me about my son being a good man and making good choices, I just felt so many things, and I couldn't hold it in. And that's when this show started to shift for me, because I was really getting involved emotionally as an actor without trying. I didn't have to go and think about sad things. I just opened up to these people.
Right. And that speaks a lot to, your experience with, your mother. And being there for your mother.
That's right.
And having 2 fucking sisters.
Three. Yeah.
Like the amount of emotional space and the sort of the gift of these characters to the women in this show is sort of mind-blowing. Like, it's a beautiful thing, but I think that comes a lot from stuff that you really haven't reckoned with publicly.
No, it's true.
Your relationship with women is complicated, and it goes back to when you were a nothing.
That's right.
A child.
That's right. It does, and I think that I was able to dig deep that way because it was about family.
Right.
And here I have this daughter on the show who, I thought about my daughters when I did Louis, but in this case, I thought about my sisters.
Right.
Because my family, my dad we don't have a relationship with him. I don't have one with him at all.
Yeah.
And so that's who Horace's son is really me.
Yeah.
I'm playing my dad a little bit,
right.
know? And then, but I have one sister who stays in touch with him.
Yeah.
And I hope I'm not divulging anything private, but I asked her once because she has a hard time with him.
Yeah.
But she stays in contact.
Uh-huh.
And I asked her once, why do you do that?
Yeah.
Why do you put yourself through it? Because I don't. She said, well, he's part of me. Your parents are part of you. And I feel like if I can accept him, not forgive or even like,
right,
but if I can accept him and be open to him in my life, that means I can accept and be open to parts of myself that I have a hard time with. And I thought, God damn it, that's such a strong choice. That's a brilliant thing to be able to do. I can't do it.
Yeah.
Willfully admit I can't do it.
Yeah.
I'd rather just avoid and shut down.
Right.
So that's who 80 is. She's really my older sister.
Right.
And that she just goes, look, Dad, I'm going to tell you how I feel. If you want to be around me, you're going to have to listen to what I have to say.
Right.
But so that's who she was.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, it was very intense. And after 3, we killed Uncle Pete, and him telling Pete about eating pussy as his last words was all Joe Pesci's thing. Yeah, but he turned it into this thing. Joe Pesci started by telling me you don't eat pussy because it makes you into a schmuck, and even women that do it, he doesn't like them.
Yeah.
But then he says, but that's because love is you face each other and you come at the same time, and nothing is and nothing else is worth it.
Yeah.
Hold out for real love.
Yeah.
Joe Pesci said that to me.
Yeah.
And so for Uncle Pete to say that to him, don't ever do that, son. Don't ever eat a pussy. And then he shoots himself. And I'm sorry for the spoiler for whoever's listening.
But that's the only thing you really spoiled.
No, it's the one thing. But
the thing about it is like people's expectations of you and giving you the leeway to have this experience and put it out there is that the comedy of it, it services the tragedy.
Yeah,
it does not save it.
That's very well put.
And Kurt's great, Steven's great, Nick is great, but even Kurt, who is probably the most comedic character.
He's also a lonely guy in the show too, though,
right?
I think.
No, I know, and he's very Kurt. Like I know Kurt.
Yeah.
But his energy, his exuberance, his joyful cynicism is about the funniest it gets.
That's it. That's really it. Yeah.
And it's dark.
It is.
But there's also one beat that you have, after the first encounter with the African American woman who you don't know, what she is.
Yeah.
When she leaves and you have that moment before you walk in the bedroom, I don't want to give it away because it's so clearly a comic moment.
Right. That's right.
After
she leaves?
Right. And Edie Falco comes in.
Yeah. So she, here's the thing with that one was a good case of I felt the story was being told to me rather than me telling it.
Yeah.
Because the point of that to me was Horace hooking up with somebody. One night stand. And the one night stands in life that are very mutually
good.
Yeah, and also mutually negotiated. Yeah, everybody's cool with what's going on.
Right.
And that when she wakes up the next morning and goes and she's just like, I didn't mean to stay over. And Horace says, have some eggs. And she says, and then I'm leaving. And Horace says, yeah, please do. And then they're able to sit together because they both know no one's going to get snarled here.
Then you get into that conversation that you have, which I've never seen it played that way.
Well, because I thought what's interesting, once I got them sitting down, I didn't know what I was going to have them talk about, but I thought, here's an interesting thing. Two people who have been intimate, which means they can tell each other something.
Yeah.
But they have negotiated we are never going to see each other again.
Yeah.
Which means they can tell each other things without fear.
Yeah.
That's a big deal.
Right.
And I thought, Horace is a guy who, if you ask him 3 questions about his life, you find out something terrible.
Yeah.
That's a fucked up way to go through life.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Hey, you got, just questions that have nobody, and they're eating eggs. They don't really even want to talk.
Yeah.
You got, are you married? No. Divorced? You have kids? Yep. 2. Yep. Really? How old are they? And then it all comes out.
Yeah.
You can't even answer that question for Horace without this horrible truth coming out.
Yeah.
And so he tells her, and to me, that's what the scene was about. It was about that. And then I started to figure, okay, well, then we'll start landing the scene by talking about sex and just that she enjoyed it, he enjoyed it. You have a nice dick. Thank you. You have a nice pussy. Thanks. It's right. I had to put in where my dick used to be. I had to make that joke.
Yeah.
It's just a joke.
Yeah.
And then I went, huh. And as Horace in my head, I was like, yeah, that's funny.
Yeah.
And then the conversation took off from that. I didn't know the scene was going to be about that. I didn't intend to write that scene. I really didn't. And then once I started having that conversation with myself in my head, about halfway through, I talked to Vernon about it. And he said, he said, well, wait a minute, though. If someone is transgender, they have to tell their partners. And I was like, really? They do? And then I thought, that's so interesting that he thinks that.
Yeah.
That's so interesting. So I had that out in the conversation.
Right.
But I got to give Vernon credit because when we shot that scene, you know, it was intense.
Yeah.
And the last take we did, I thought we were done.
Yeah.
I was like, we did it. And then Karen Pittman, who played the woman, said, I'd love one more. And I said, you don't need one more. She said, I don't think I have it at all. And I said to her, I don't need you to feel satisfied. Like as an actor.
Yeah.
You gave it to me. She said, just let me do one more. I said, all right. So we did it. That's the one we used the last one.
Right.
That she wanted.
Yeah.
And it's far better than the one previous. So she gets credit for that. But right before we did it, there's something I've started to do in directing when I'm in the thing.
Yeah.
Is if you're doing a last take, it feels like a last take, do something that the person didn't expect. Like walk towards them when you haven't for 5 takes, or go walk over and like put your hand on their shoulder, something that makes them do something really honest.
Yeah.
But anyway, he got in my ear and said, you should say this one thing. And he fed me that line right at the...
Which one?
Right before the one you're talking about, the thing I say to Edie.
Anyway. Yeah, because it was like in the way you structured this show. Even if something's funny, you're not writing jokes. There's no, it's not.
No, there's none. It's all just mechanics of the story, and then it's these feelings. And I kept getting blindsided by feelings, like in that scene. So Edie wasn't supposed to be in that scene.
Yeah.
But there was this thing where she's got cancer.
Yeah.
And there's a timeline to her cancer.
Right.
And I'd been talking to Edie about that kind of stuff, and so I said to her,
is that the scene where she tells you she has cancer?
It's the scene where she tells me she's healthy, that she got a good card of, you know.
Oh, that's right.
So I said to her the day before, hey, you know what? You're not supposed to be here tomorrow for the Karen Pittman scene, but come anyway. And come in at the end and tell me that you're cured.
Yeah.
And I just figured it's a story point.
Yeah.
And I'll go, hey, terrific.
Yeah.
So she said, okay, how do you want me to say it? I'm like, just however you would say that.
Yeah.
That you got good news.
Yeah.
And she goes, all right. So I forgot it. I forgot I told her to.
Yeah.
I honestly forgot.
Yeah.
Until we're shooting the first. I think we didn't do any rehearsals of that. Because when we rehearsed the scene, I didn't have that in it.
Right.
So we're shooting the scene with Karen Pittman. And she's about to leave, and Edie walks in. And I forgot that I told Edie to be there.
Yeah.
And then it's like weird because she's there with this woman I was just with.
Yeah.
And then the Karen Pittman leaves, and I go to Edie, and she looks weird.
Yeah.
And I'm really in a real place.
Yeah.
And I said, what's up with you? And she says, I've got good news. And I go, what? She says, I'm okay. And it fucking hit me like a ton of bricks.
Yeah.
I never experienced something like this. She said this thing to me, and I was like, that's my sister. And I was afraid to even consider the possibility that she was dying.
Right.
And she's going to be okay. And now I'm upset that she was dying.
Yeah.
It hit me so hard. I mean, I'm getting emotional now.
Yeah.
I fucking lost it.
Yeah.
I just like, I started to cry. And then I wanted to hug her, and I thought, I can't. She's not like that. I can't do it.
Yeah.
Sylvia doesn't like to be hugged.
Right.
So I just kind of stood there, and she stood there kind of gasping.
Yeah.
And then we hugged awkwardly.
Yeah.
It was unbelievable.
Yeah.
And then that line that Vernon gave me was just perfect. It was perfect.
It was a pretty outstanding line.
Yeah, no, it was great. That was another time I got really hit hard.
Well, I saw you going through it, but do you feel when you look at this thing, and outside of whatever the finances are, none of that's important to me. We because you're gonna be fine.
Yeah.
So when you look at this thing, do you feel like you've exercised something?
It was a big deal.
But can you identify what was this doing inside of you?
I don't know, man. I mean, I feel like it wasn't just me because we all shared this thing.
Right.
Every week we would sit down with a new script and we would talk about it, and then we'd run through it and we'd go, wow. Tuesday we would just burn through the script, like on the set. Just burn through it again and again. And then we slap on microphones like on our chests and let the cameras watch us do it so we could start to get a sense of how to shoot it. But
so you had a real community. You had a family.
Yeah, exactly. And I had...
it's theater.
And we're like working through it. And starting with not knowing it and saying, what do I say? Like, first we would do it on book. Everybody's staring down at the script. So we just are all hearing it. But no one's connecting because you're not looking at anybody. You're looking at a script. Then you put the scripts down and you read through it and you look at each other. But then and you have these big moments, but then you see someone just die on camera because they forgot their lines. I mean, not on camera, but we go, what do I say here?
Yeah.
And then you get piecing through it. And then we go to lunch, then we come back, put the microphones on, and now everybody kind of starting to know it. And then we would talk about it and go like, wow, this one's really, I'd written them months before. So it was like I was discovering each one with the actors. And then I would be like, all these tracks in my head running at the same time because it's like Steve Buscemi walks in the room and he starts doing this scene and I'm like, I'm feeling all these things about my brother.
Yeah.
And I'm also thinking, God damn it, is this guy turning in a great fucking performance?
Yeah.
And how does he know all of his lines? I don't know any of my lines. He so gives a shit about this crazy thing I wrote. And he loved it. Him and Edie and Alan, all of them loved working on it. And they would tell me this over and over again, that they loved working on it. And then the show would go out and the world would see it, the little world that was watching it.
Yeah.
And the way that people were expressing their appreciation, most of the people that write sort of like TV recaps were ignoring it. But a couple were recapping it, and I would read those. Yeah. And I got a lot of emails, and I was reading them. I don't read emails, but I was reading them because they were all very profound, and people were very upset by what they were watching and compelled by it. And I thought, this is really a fucking big, small and big. Yeah. And we just all knew we were doing, and the bar felt so real to me, that fucking bar. Yeah. That Amy Silver, our old friend from the bartender at the Paradise in the 80s. Yeah, she designed it. She built this bar that lived for us. Yeah. And your guy Paul, was on. Paul, my guy Paul Kessner, and the big thing that happened was the editor, because I always edited my own show, but I let her have it, and she really earned the job on episode 3 because she stayed on my face when she was telling me about my son, and I was crying. And when I saw the edit, she doesn't cut away from me once. It's a really long reaction shot. Yeah. And I was like, defend that. That's indulgent. And she said, I can't do it any other way. She said, you have to. She said every time I watch this, it makes me feel all these things. And when I cut to her, I don't feel them in this one thing. So I started this thing I do with an editor now, which is she does something I don't like. Yeah. And instead of saying change it, I say, why'd you do it? And she tells me something, and I go, well, I hadn't thought of that, and I let her have it. Yeah. So she started shaping how the show feels, but never editing, never shoring up, never shortening moments, only shifting around where the cameras are, because they're all in isolated record, and putting the pieces together. Jesus, Paul Simon making the song for me that made me cry every time I heard it. And then he shows up in the last episode. Yeah, he shows up in the last episode, and then the way we used America, Paul and I would become pals at that time, and he told me, he said the sound of silence, Paul Simon said this to me, on your show is really deafening. It's really hard to take. He said, put a little music in there. Make it come out of the jukebox. Yeah. I said, well, I got to get that music somewhere. And he goes, well, why don't you use your favorite song? And he was being nice because I had told him that America is my favorite song. And I said, can I have it? He said, of course you can have it. He gave me America. But yeah, and then when it came down to that, and when Pete had left for an episode and he was gone, there was this episode about Pete being gone. Yeah. I was such a mess that week because I missed Steve, and I was scared for the character, and I was mad at myself for writing what I did about him.
So you're having this very real personal struggle with with your creation while you're acting in it.
Yeah, so I don't know where it all came from, And I did something I never did as an actor, which is I resisted feeling anything. I was like, I don't want to feel this. It's too much. Yeah. Like I really did. I was like, I don't care if the show's good or not. I can't let these feelings out. It's too much.
Well, the personal catharsis of you engaging this way, you know, and having these.
Yeah, I'm sorry I keep going.
Very real experiences. No, it's great.
The thing that was important to me, one thing about the way I did it was I didn't want to have to tell people, like, I promise you this will be funny. I promise you this will be good even. I just wanted to lay it out there.
But
say, if you want to watch it, you can watch it.
But all these things you're talking about, the life of the show and the life that you lived in it and these performances and this collaborative experience and the courage of making it a tragedy definitively.
Yeah, it really is.
Is something that it's not been done. For me, like, it's a weird thing that my experience is like, this should be 2 days of theater. Like, you should put this up.
Right.
On Broadway.
But that's the funny thing is that this is exactly what it belongs as. It's just this 10-part thing that you
I know
watch.
that. I know. But the theatricality of it.
Yeah.
To have that experience where you let these pauses happen and you let these things be open-ended, you let these emotions happen, and you let these horrible people, some of them, have their time.
Well, like with the scene with Laurie, I thought that what I learned from writing that one was that you've got a big issue between two people with a lot of frayed ends to it and a lot of conflict and a lot of hurt. And the two of them try to figure it out. And one person says, here's 4 ways to approach it that could help you. And the other person says, I can't do any of them because I love too much or I'm too scared.
Right.
And then the other person goes, well, then don't do any of it and just
keep doing it.
Keep doing it. And the other person goes, yeah, I guess that's what I'm going to do. And kind of fuck you, but also how you doing, and then just walk away.
But you needed to unload.
I mean, that's a conversation.
Sure.
That's how people talk to each other. Once you've lived a lot of life, especially when you get in your 40s and 50s and beyond, you get to a point where it's like, we can exchange a few words, but we're not going to fix nothing.
Right.
It's all dug in.
Yeah.
And you never could have fixed it. All you can do is like chat for a few minutes with somebody who's sort of walked the same roads as you, and compare notes.
I do it every week.
Yeah, exactly. And it can hurt real bad sometimes.
Yeah.
And I'm like in a weird place of mourning from this show.
Yeah.
I still, like you can see, I get like emotional about it, and I cry about the show a lot.
It's a relationship.
Yeah, it is. It really is. I miss it a lot,
Yeah.
And I want to do it again. I can't. I knew that at one point this is a 10-act play and it's going to be over. And there's ways we could continue, and that bar's in storage, and I've thought about writing other things, and I might. This kid Horace at the end.
Yeah.
That's I don't know if you know who that was, but that's Angus, not Angus. Angus T. Jones. He's the kid on 2.5 Men.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he's the boy of 2.5 Men.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, he's he walked off of 2.5 Men, big, number one show on television for 12 years. Walked off of it because he felt it moral conflict with the show because he's a Christian. Mm-hmm. And I found that really fascinating, that somebody that walks away from a huge job because he doesn't feel right about it. And that made me think about Horace in my show, this kid who, and his son who doesn't speak to him, who judges him so much that he won't speak to him.
Right.
Thinks he's such a terrible man that he's not worth his fucking time, his own father.
Yeah.
Just like I am with my dad.
Right.
That's who I am. And I thought about that, and I talked to Angus on the phone, and I said, I want you to play a scene. You have 3 lines. He's in Colorado. I'm like, I want you to fly in and play this one scene.
Does he act anymore?
Nah, I mean, not much. Not really. And I said, I want you to play a guy in a world that's very amoral, but you're not. In your mind, you're moral.
Yeah.
And we talked about the idea that when you make yourself moral, you separate yourself from other people, because most people aren't. So you isolate yourself. And he came and he played that part. So there's ways forward with it, and I don't know if I'm going to take them. I may leave it where it is, but one thing I know for sure is that I'll do something like this again.
Right, that's it. Well, that's the important thing.
Yeah, I will do something just like this again. For sure.
You've outdone yourself, and you've taken yourself personally and creatively to this other level, and you've discovered amazing truths.
And the only thing that matters to me is that I can keep doing it, and all I need for that is for it to get close, at least, to being like it never happened financially.
Yeah.
And then I'll put it on somewhere like Netflix where a lot of people can see it and sample it. They won't have the experience that they had, the people
the secret people.
No one will ever see it the way they did until I do it again.
Yeah.
Which is this, but nobody will ever see Horace and Pete that way again. That you don't know how many you're going to see. You don't know what the next one's going to be. You don't know when you might see the next one.
Right.
I mean, for the first few weeks, nobody knew it was going to be every Saturday. I didn't promise that.
Yeah.
That'll never happen again. Or that something like this would never exist and then it did. That, no matter what I do, I'll never get that back again. I'll never get the thing back of posting it on my website and sitting and watching Twitter. Yeah. And then sending out the email and seeing Twitter, somebody writes,
What the fuck?
What the fuck is this? Did anybody get this email? What the fuck is this? And I'm like, it's 68 minutes, so they haven't watched it yet. 20 minutes in, people are like, I saw the whole thing. It's great. They couldn't have. They couldn't have. They were just that eager to say something. But just to watch the world take it in, and it was such a fucking wonderful thing. It was worth all of it. So I'll do it again. I don't need to make money on this. I don't need to. You know, I like a lot of people to see it.
Yeah. LouisCK.net.
LouisCK.net. It's $31. You can just watch the whole season.
Just fucking, like, I don't get $31. That's a week of coffee.
Yeah,
I don't understand how people prioritize things. They can't, you know what I mean? Like,
you don't want to feel like it's fair. This is why. And I understand it now because I studied this.
Yeah.
It's not that they feel like that's too much money. I can't afford it.
Yeah.
It's that they don't want to be ripped off and they want to feel like it's on equity and the thing that they didn't think through, which why would they, is that I'm on the head of the stream of this thing. I'm like in the mountains of the stream. And most shows make their first round of revenue on ads. Yeah. And then by the time they get to Netflix, they've made some profit already. Yeah. But I don't have that. This was the first. The people watching it, they're the first run people. Right. And that had value to some people, and they watched it. Anybody who didn't have value to, I didn't care to convince them. Yeah. Or to advertise to them or promote to them. I could have easily. Yeah. But I thought it's better to let it grow exactly the size of people that it really needs.
Right, and also that just by nature of it, fundamentally it's not for everybody.
No, it sure isn't. It would have been a real mistake to get out in front of this show and say this is going to be great, it's going to be funny, and to have billboards and shit like that. And especially because I was coming from a place. This is a weird part of it. I had a show on for 5 seasons. It was nominated for Best Comedy Series the last 3. Yeah. We won a bunch of Emmys over the years. So I realized the success of my show is going to hurt the next thing I do. It's going to hurt it. It can't help it. It's going to bring too many eyeballs and expectations to it. And especially once I realized what this thing was.
Well, but
I thought if I bury it deep in a fucking mountain and it has like a little beep beep signal, like only the people will come to it who are likely to like it.
But also, you created the space to allow yourself to grow creatively. You did what an artist does. Because this business is built on people repeating themselves. Yeah. Even your show.
Very good point. Yeah.
Structurally, yes. It became not predictable, but it's like there was a stylistic predictability to it. Yep. And that's what made it, what made people kind of like, oh yeah, it's Louis.
That's right. That's right.
So in order to disengage from that, you had to disengage from it.
That's right. I had to completely. Right. And then start from somewhere so far away from the center and just quietly drop it. Not even ask people to watch it. Just tell them it exists. Well, then I'm not asking for nothing. I'm just making it. And you guys come if you want.
Well, you're the real fucking deal, Lou.
I love you, Mark.
I love you too. You did a great thing, buddy. And there's not many real artists around, and Jesus Christ, buddy.
There's a bunch. There's a bunch of them, and nobody's paying attention.
No, but just I don't want to discredit anyone's art, and I know there's a lot of real artists, but to be at the stature you're at, and to afford yourself and take the risk to find the freedom to take a tremendous risk on so many levels, and really insulate yourself long enough and thoroughly enough to do it and execute it. Not everybody does that.
Well, it's a short life, and if you keep repeating your success, you're living shorter time. Like, in other words, you're going to end up looking back at your life in sections. Right. And so, not in years. Yeah. So, for me, it's like the years I did Louis. Yeah. And that's one. Yeah. That's a one thing. Right. Then there's the Horace and Pete. That's one thing. Yeah. If I did Louis for 15 years, that means I got less. Do you understand what I mean? Yeah. I wanted to do more. I wanted to make more. I want to do a bunch of shows before I die. I'm 48, and most people make it to, 80 if they're good. So I ain't got that many left,
I know. Me neither. I'm having a hard time knowing what to do with my mornings.
Yeah. Exactly.
It's an interesting and it's a luxury problem in some ways, given our positions.
It definitely is, and I don't know. I don't think but it's an earned luxury. Sure, because a lot of people that are coming up, they look at guys like you and guys like me, and they go, "Well, look what they got." Yeah, I mean, they don't have to worry because look what they got. Look at the opportunities they got.
Yeah, we worry all the time.
But how did we get to this place? We do have advantages. Mm-hmm. and the luxury of some choices.
Right.
But how do we get those? What did we do to pay into those? Were we born with that?
No.
We fucking slogged it with no hope of reaching this.
I know.
For each of us, about 25 to 30 years of just running in place and building skill.
And not knowing if anything was going to work out.
Not knowing if it was going to work out, and thinking, actually, the odds were very against.
Yeah.
And you and I both suffer from PTSD from our early careers that we're only now starting to reckon with. That's an investment, and that's a commitment. And it started a long time ago.
Yeah.
So for me, it's like every time I know anybody who's been doing this like 10 years, and they go, well, it's just not fair. I don't get opportunities. You just haven't hung in there long enough.
I know.
Why wouldn't it take years and years and years
Right.
and years and years and years and years and years and years and years
To be great.
to be to get to make TV for a living? What an insane
Right.
payoff.
It should take that long.
It should take
There'd be
that
less
long.
garbage.
That's right. That's right. A lot of people get it pretty quick. But you can tell they got it quick.
You can, and then you can see them go away, and then some of them come back. I always love those guys. The guys who get the big breaks, like Kevin Hart and Bill Burr, who got sent up the flagpole, didn't work out.
Right.
They went back to the grind, come out bigger than ever.
That's a real story. If you can get through that, if you can hit and die and then come back, you are something.
Yeah.
That's what Chris Rock did. Chris Rock did SNL.
Yeah.
That's the biggest break you could ask for at the time.
Yeah.
Fucking stunk
Yeah.
on SNL
Yeah.
during a time where SNL stunk.
Yeah.
And then he disappeared. And that was that's what happened to Chris Rock.
Yeah.
And then there was, I think you might have been with me when he came to Caroline's to headline for an hour. So we went, let's go watch Chris Rock do an hour.
Yeah.
And
like,
meanwhile,
holy shit.
we're sitting around New York like, why doesn't somebody give me something?
Yeah, yeah.
I'm funny. I got 20 funny
I want to
minutes.
do Letterman.
Yeah. And then we sat in the back and watched him do an hour. And at the end of the hour, everybody's on their feet.
Yeah.
And all the comedians are bent over with their heads in their hands going, what the fuck am I doing with my goddamn life?
Right.
God damn it, is that guy good? So, But yes, the hitting and then dying and...
Well, I'm fortunate in
climbing
that
out of it.
I'm still waiting to hit, which is a great feeling.
You have hit.
I'm kidding.
You've offered
it's a
something.
slow build.
Yeah.
All right, buddy. I love you. Go do your
Love you too,
shows.
man. Thank you.
Yep. I don't know the story about your mother. What in the terms of for a lot of people who are listening, either like Digging Up Mother, a love story, Doug Stanhope. Because I remember hearing you talking about your mother, but how's the narrative of the book work? Is it essays or is it straight up memoir?
Well, the suicide itself was at my house with us roasting her and making a party.
Right, because she
out of
was
it.
ill.
Yeah, she was on hospice care, emphysema, dying, bedpan,
right.
couldn't get out of bed.
Right.
So that's what I worked into my last special.
Right.
So me assuming that because I had it on a special, every single person in the world knows it.
Yeah, that's what we do. No one has seen it or knows
Right.
it.
I front-loaded. The first chapter is basically the extended, detailed version of that bit.
That's great.
So I started with what I assume everyone already knows, and then go back to, being young and remembering her jacking off the dog.
Yeah.
She's just a weird, caustic.
This is your mom?
Yeah.
Why did she jerk off the dog?
I don't know. She thought because
funny?
they like it was her.
Why does anyone jerk off a dog?
But I was 12, so I thought it was fucking hilarious.
Yeah, I knew one other kid. I saw a kid do that once, jerk off a dog, and I'm like, this doesn't seem right. But they were laughing. So.
Yeah. My mother was laughing. I was laughing. And because I was laughing, she continued to do that through my life up until my adulthood.
Jerking off the dog.
Ralphie May was at the apartment when I lived in L.A. once,
Yeah.
where she started jerking off the cat, trying to get, breaking out an old bit.
Didn't
all right, it's not as funny when you're not 12.
Yeah. Or when it's a cat, it's a little trickier to jerk off a cat. Dogs are waiting; they're ready to be jerked off.
What's your problem? They like it. So she would always say that.
That sounds like some good mothering. Was your dad around? He wasn't.
Yeah, my dad was around. He was of little or no consequence. He's just they divorced when I was like 7, but he was just a big happy, dumb, he was like the dad from Happy Days, but a little dumber.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Right. So your mom was a character.
Yeah. Yes.
And what is the love story element?
Just we were best friends in a very awkward way.
You and your mom.
Yeah.
All the way through.
She actually talked me into doing comedy.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. You should be a stand-up comic. You're funnier than these cocksuckers. fucking evening at the Improv.
How old were you when that happened?
Probably 20, 22. And my mother she got sober in AA when I was about 7.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so I spent a lot of time growing up in the back of AA meetings.
Oh, hearing the stories.
Yeah, and I think that's where I got an adult sense of humor way too young.
That makes sense.
And I would bring all that shit to school, and they thought I was a fucking psychotic.
It all adds up to me now, because like the beautiful thing about AA, and I imagine you learned how to drink in AA. Like here,
it was an advertisement for alcohol, because those fucks sit around in a circle, and it's all glorifying their worst stories and talking it up with a small spin at the end. And fortunately, through the grace of God, I never have to live like that anymore. I mean, you were high fiving each other in the middle of this story, and then
I've never seen you so happy aside from the first 5 minutes of that story.
And storytelling itself. I mean, there were AA headliners, basically.
Oh, yeah.
My mother would take us in and go, "Hey, Indian Jim is speaking tonight, and you're going to love him. He's fucking great."
And that's so funny. So you, instead of getting a babysitter, you just go to the meeting with her.
Yeah.
So that whole sensibility, that must have informed your brain a lot.
And they would treat me just like I was an adult.
Right.
They talk to you the same way. They don't give a fuck if kids here. I'm lucky to be alive. What do you think? I'm going to tone it down for some fucking 10-year-old?
Yeah, and also like 90% of them, not necessarily great parents during the using period.
Yeah, they're all your crazy uncle.
Yeah, exactly.
That corrupts you.
Yeah, exactly. There's another one of those little fucks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I would bring that all to school, and I wasn't a class clown. I was like a school shooter with jokes. They were terrified of me because, like, even the teachers, like, how would a kid that age even know about that?
Right. So talking about shooting heroin or something.
Yeah.
Oh, that's hilarious.
There's a piece of homework from when I was like 11. And it was like, use a word in a sentence, and there's 5 different sentences.
Yeah.
I can't remember verbatim, but it was about the National Guardsmen took great aim when they mowed down the protesters in a hail of bullets. The baby's head crushed easily in a vice. And so I'm 11 years old.
Embracing the wrong things.
Well, when I look back, I had just found that when I was doing research for the book. My mother was a hoarder, thank God, or I wouldn't have been able to write this.
Right.
I wouldn't have the... and I look back and I go, well, that's shit that was going on in the news, and it was dead baby jokes were all the rage. So, of course, I'd write something about a baby's head in a vice.
Yeah, why not? You had a dark sense of humor angle on it.
But they sent me to a school psychologist. They were terrified of me. I had to go to counseling and stuff just because I had that sense of humor, just because of my jokes.
And she got, like, there's a picture in there of you and your brother and her letting you feel her fake boobs, her new boobs.
Yeah. She was all about anyone who gets fake tits. They always want to whip them out.
Yeah, my mom has them, and I didn't know for most of my life until she got new ones, and it was too old for me to be like, well, let me check them out. It didn't feel right. But you guys looked pretty old, you and your brother, when you're feeling.
Yeah, we were about 21 or so. But that was her second pair too. I believe.
Yeah. She must have got the same ones.
I remember being in Friendlies when she got her first pair, and she's squeezing them in a booth, going, we thought it was funny. Like, she was the perfect mother if you were a Beavis and Butthead kid. She let you smoke, let you read Hustler magazine.
Yeah.
Was vulgar. And she was a truck driver for a while. And
was she?
Bartender for a lot of years. She could sneak me into bars. I remember seeing what now I know was the remnants of the Guess Who, but they still used the name, and she was working. The Guess Who? And she got them to let me in to watch them, and I was thinking it was the Who.
Right. Oh, right. It was like just Randy Bachman, and maybe not even Bachman. It was probably the other guys.
Who knows? I thought it was the Who, and I was
No.
just happy that I recognized one of the songs after the disappointment of, oh wait, this isn't the Who.
You recognized American Woman, and you're like, this isn't the Who. That's one song.
Yeah, it's close enough.
Yeah. So, like, I can't imagine. She had been sick for how long by the time that
The first time when I was doing the Man Show, so 2004,
Yeah.
Comedy Central asked me to do a cruise ship
Right.
with DiPaolo and a couple other people
Yeah.
to film wraparounds for their comedy awards, the
Yeah.
commies. So it was free first class airfare and a free cruise. So I brought my mother. And that's when I found out she had come off the wagon, because she had been sober since I was about 7.
Oh, wow.
And then I found out she'd been secretly
Drinking.
hitting the sauce. And I go, well, if anything, I want to get hammered with my mother one time, so this will be a good time. And we sat in first class, and they brought over trays of champagne back in the good old days of first class.
Yeah.
And we both took one. I didn't say a word. We both started
them back?
drinking, and we drank for a week straight. Ended in was it not Fort Lauderdale, wherever they had an improv, West Palm Beach.
Yeah, West Palm, yeah.
I had to do a gig when we landed back, and I got her to do blow for the first time. Got a waitress chopping up lines in the ladies' room toilet and showing her how to do it.
Did you like it?
Yeah, she liked it. She liked to talk and drink. So
Yeah,
that
it worked out.
I can talk more.
Yeah.
I can over talk you into your grave.
Yeah. And when did she find out she had the emphysema?
Well, it was on that trip where I knew she had shitty lungs.
Yeah.
When she first moved here from Florida, she had been a nurse, and she did one of those blow into this thing to gauge the strength of your lungs, and they told her at that point she had the lungs of a 127-year-old person.
Oh, no.
So I knew it was bad, but on that trip, just going through the airport, she would have to stop for air on flat ground with a roller bag. She'd have to stop every so often, and I'm like, oh, this is way worse than I knew.
Oh. So, and what was the decision-making process around her exit?
I was doing a 5-week tour. At that point, I'd kind of written her off. She had gotten life flighted a couple times from Bisbee up to Tucson because...
But she was living with you?
She was living in the same town. When
Right.
I moved out of town, she had a bunch of false flag suicide attempts. So one of them I had to drive out and pick her up and bring her to Bisbee and get her an apartment there. She had left a Post-it note. That's why I say in the end of the book, I go, the real title of this book is... Mother, the long version of a suicide Post-it note.
Yeah.
All she wrote is a Post-it. Doug, pain is too much. Which, I guess, what else do you have to say?
To the point, yeah.
Yeah.
But was it physical pain mostly?
That's when she was, her drinking just spiraled out. She wasn't good at it. She'd be funny for an hour and then straight into maudlin depression. Well, I was a bad mother and I'm a burden to you. And,
yeah.
so I drove her out. She got life flighted. One time we were in Costa Rica, and we get the call, hey, your mother they had a helicopter her up to Tucson she had tubes in her lungs sucking the gunk out.
Oh, yeah, so she was just dying.
Yeah, but she was making no attempt to help herself. So at some point I just had to detach. Like, if you're just going to keep doing this to yourself, you can't, I can't be the responsible party. You're being a dick.
Right.
I mean, I'll still help you out when you need it, but I'm not going out of my way for you.
Right. And who decided to... What was the conversation around the assisted suicide?
She'd been talking about suicide forever.
Right.
And she had attempted it, not even for health problems. So when her health got that bad and she's on oxygen, she said, I had this 5-week tour of Europe. And I asked the nurse lady, her caretaker, and they said she probably has a 50-50 chance of being here when you get back.
Right.
So we had a close enough relationship where I said, I'm not canceling the tour. I said, I'm going to call you every night from stage, and if you're alive, I know you're going to do the Monty Python, I'm not dead yet.
Yeah. Yeah.
Monty Python, we grew up with that, so we were always quoting. We had the bits, and she would always... And if an EMT answers the phone, I guess we'll have our answer, but I'm going to do it live on speakerphone on stage every night.
And you did that?
Yeah, we did that, and I also had her tell us what she bought today. I go, you have a $10,000 limit on your Visa card. You can't take that with you, and you have no estate for them to take it out of. Jack up your credit card. So she'd do, I'm not dead yet. And then she'd tell us some silly shit she bought out of the Sky Mall catalog I gave her. And so she was alive when I got back, and she knew. She called me up and said, it's time to go, and had a doctor that she had hospice care, and hospice will set you up with the amount of drugs if you want to hasten the process.
Yeah.
And so she figured out that she had enough of the medication, the morphine, well more than enough.
Yeah.
That she could have left some behind.
Yeah.
But she didn't. She took them all.
Yeah. And you all were just there?
She came over to my house because where she lived was just filthy hoarder estate.
Yeah.
Spider webs and bugs and shit.
Yeah.
But she wouldn't let you clean anything up because you're going to throw away something important.
Yeah. Yeah.
So she came over to my place, and she without a date. She didn't give us a specific date.
Yeah.
And I told her, listen, hey, if you're going to do this, it was a Thursday. I said, you got to do it. I said you can't do it on Sunday or Monday because that's football,
right?
And that's just a dick move. If you're doing this on your own, you don't ruin someone else's pre-planned event,
right?
And you have to do it before 2 weeks from now because that's when Brian Hennigan's coming back, and he doesn't have this stomach or sense of humor for this kind of shit.
Yeah. And so she just came over?
She came over Thursday, and then we just hung around and waited for her to, cry uncle. And on Saturday night, after Bingo and I had, spent the whole day going, I don't know what the fuck to do, and had some cocktails and took his Xanax to go to bed, and I was on like MySpace or whatever, and she's like, "It's done. Get me my drink and my pills."
It's done? She already took it?
I thought she meant like her beverage. She always had like a 89-ounce Bubba keg kind of thing with diet soda.
A big gulp.
And she was on 85 medications.
Yeah.
And I thought she meant that. She goes, no, the other drink and the other pills. Because she had been sober 4 years at that point. 3 years?
Yeah.
A little while.
Uh-huh.
And I told her when she came over to kill herself, I go, you're not going to do it sober, right?
Right.
You can't take those chips with you.
Yeah.
Yeah. And she goes, absolutely. So we mixed up, she was a Black Russian drinker back in her prime.
Uh-huh.
So I had Black Russians, but she said make it White Russians because she thought the milk would coat her stomach for eating all those pills.
Right.
It's very motherly.
Yeah, like
chicken soup for the suicide.
I don't want to be too hard on my stomach.
Yeah.
And
she
so
didn't
she
want to
just
throw them up. And
so she just did it?
yeah, she ate almost 90
there?
morphine pills slowly because she had a hard time eating them, and we just busted her balls. And
just you and Bingo?
yeah, as she's coming in and out of consciousness. Ma, wait! They found a cure!
Oh, no.
I wish I could remember all the lines. It's one of those,
Was she
fuck,
laughing?
we should have taped that. Yeah, of course she's laughing. She had a really dark sense of humor and, was very logical and rational about death. And
Yeah.
so it's just
How long did it take for it to...
a long time. For some reason, I was guessing 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Based on absolutely nothing,
Right.
No research,
Right.
But yeah, she was alert for, I'd say, an hour after she took them all. While she's taking them, that probably took an hour.
Right.
Again, the timeline is fuzzy, but we were busting her balls, and then she said, "I was a good mother, right?" No, you're a terrible mother. Like, how else would you raise a son that's going to mix you cocktails while you're killing yourself?
So when it finally happened, was, well, obviously it was the right thing. It was her choice, and, you were there for her.
And she was in agony. She also had horrific back pain. She'd been addicted to Vicodin for God knows how many years.
Did you
or
cry?
A decade. Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, we try to keep it, as much gallows humor as we could.
Yeah, but eventually.
I'm a dick.
It's all right. Yeah. But
Sorry, my cell phone went off. I'm not saying I'm a dick for killing my mother.
No. Don't want to be misunderstood. But you did have the feelings. You were able to grieve and have that moment.
Yeah, Bingo and I, we put on some music, which as soon as Mother was, unconscious because she hated music and it was always too loud.
Yeah.
Then we'd like mirror under the nose, kind of, I can't tell if she's dead or not.
You try to feel the pulse and stuff?
Yeah, and we had a caretaker, a friend of ours that would come in and out, and she came in at one point and said, no, she's still breathing. And at some point, she... I remember her last words were, because my mother would just, if she could get a laugh, she'd grind it into the ground. She'd over-tag it and keep telling the joke and repeating it, trying to... Like, Ma, you're ruining the joke. You were just funny, and now you're...
Too much.
Comics like that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Shut up.
Quit ringing the bell.
And she's just pounding drinks. Like, and at some point I said, wow, you're really hammering those White Russians. And she said, there's times to be dainty and there's times to be a pig. And we fell out laughing, and you could see her mind scrambling to how to tag it. And I go, shut up, don't say anything else, because those are perfect last words. And she didn't say anything else, had a couple more sips, zonked out.
And that was it.
And that was it. And we tried to wait for till we knew she was dead. And at that point, we'd been drinking and taking a Xanax, so everyone had to fall down. And in the morning, we woke up. It was like 6:30 in the morning or so, and not EMTs, but guys from the morgue, the funeral home, and the nurse caretaker lady were all in there. And the morning where you have to figure out where am I?
What do we do?
Oh, that's right. Oh yeah, mother dead, and evidently while we were sleeping, we were sleeping on two couches in the living room, and she had a hospital bed in a small room, not much bigger than this. And the EMTs, or the morgue guys, had come in and gone directly to Bingo to lift her. And Betty's going, no, it's her. It's not dead. Yeah. And they were mortified and humiliated.
Well, that's like, this sounds like a brutally honest, dark, and sweet somehow fucking book, Doug, and it's a hell of a story. And I wish you the best of luck with it. It deserves to be read by me, and I will do that, and by everyone else as well.
Thanks.
And I
think it's doing pretty good.
Yeah,
yeah,
it's great. That's great. How do you know?
Because this stupid guy from DiCapo called me up and he said, wow, did you see your Amazon sales ranking? And I go, I didn't know to look for it.
Oh,
and
great.
now I can't not.
Yeah, now you're in. Just know that changes
hourly.
Yeah, and also based on if someone buys 3 books in 10 minutes, you could go, I'm not diminishing it.
Well, that's why he called me, because he was like, I've never had a book rank this high. Well, it turns out it was just after we put out our mailing list on my website.
Right.
And he was, yes.
You're right.
So it was at 57 of all books. He goes, I've never had any. Hitchens hit 90, and that was my best ever.
Oh, that's hilarious.
And then I had to go, wow, it's going to be a huge hit. And then I watched next hour, it's 78. Next hour, it's 150. I'm just losing all my self-esteem.
I'm actually excited to read it because I have a lot of respect for you. I think you're funny, and it's always good to talk to you.
Thanks for having me on. Is this the seat the president sat in?
That's it.
Does everyone ask that?
Yeah, eventually.
Does every guest you've had since suck? You go, I thought I had the president.
No, man. But
Neil Young's great, but the president.
No, but the funny thing is like in my mind, I knew, having talked to politicians before, like, I was honored and it was an amazing event. But I knew that the conversation, he wasn't gonna start crying or anything. Yeah. So people were like, well, what are you gonna do now? And I'm like, I don't know. We got Rich Voss, coming.
I want to hear that one.
That's a good episode. Listen to that.
I will.
All right. Thanks, man.
All right.
You mind if I call my friend Jim Norton? My buddy Jim Norton is going to be out here, I think, it's like next week. May 26th, Jim Norton will be here in Los Angeles at the Novo. And May 27th, he'll be in Las Vegas, Nevada at the Mirage Hotel and Casino. You can go to jimnorton.com to buy tickets. Jim is one of the most honest, most disgusting, most endearing, most crass and horrible, wonderful little men out there performing comedy. I love them. And I just want to make sure that if there are anybody that is a fan of Jim Norton that listens to this show and you didn't know he was coming, I want to make sure you know he's coming at the Novo here in L.A., May 26th. And let's get him on the phone. I talked to him in New York. He hosted a town hall thing at Sirius where he interviewed me. Did a great job, and I did Opie and Jimmy's show. I enjoyed that. But I love Jim, and I'm going to call him. We're going to call Jim, and we're going to talk to him, and we're going to tell you again when his gigs are. So let me get him on the phone.
Hello?
Jim, are you there? Is that you?
Hi, Mark. It is me. Yeah, I'm surprised this worked out. These connections never seem to work out properly.
Yeah, I find that with all connections of all kinds.
Yeah, that's exactly it. They stink. They sound good in theory, and then they wind up being shitty.
Yeah, emotional connections with audiences. It's all touch and go.
You know, it's funny, man. Especially with like one-on-one. For you, is it hard to have connection with sex? Like, it's virtually impossible for me to have eye contact during a sexual experience if I care about the person.
Is that true? Because I'm weird. Like, I don't know what it is about me, but I have to not only I have to have full eye contact. I don't really like closing my eyes unless I don't want to come. Like, the only time.
Really?
Yeah, the only time I'm closing my eyes is to get my breathing in a zone to where I don't blow my load. But generally, I like to look, I like to feel, I like to see what's happening. I like that. You don't like that?
No, I don't mind looking because it's like I'm kind of a pornographic voyeurism. But I can't be intimate. Like if it's someone I don't know or a stranger or if we're behind a dumpster, yeah. I can tell her I love her. But if it's like somebody I'm dating or that I care about, it's got to be filthy and I can't look at her. And it really messes me up, man. That the lack of ability to have that connection during sex.
Well, I find that that I have that experience right after sex. It's don't look at me. We did it. What do you need now?
Oh, so, okay, yeah. The emotional connection is now broken and hit the bricks.
Yeah, the snuggly part, I get a little squirrely with, but the sex part, I like to, be completely engaged. What are you with somebody?
No, man. I mean, it's literally 5 years. I've dated, I've had a couple of very brief, month or two things. But I haven't had a real girlfriend since 2011, and I'm kind of at a point now where I want a girlfriend, and I'm saying girl in air quotes, just somebody to date regularly.
What do you mean? That somebody that is the illusion of a woman might work out?
Well, yeah. Someone who's kind of half there, you know what I mean? Woman, whatever. Just somebody who I get along with and I enjoy having sex with. It would be nice to see them more than once. And I find that different things fuck it up, man. Like I'll start to like somebody, and then I find one little flaw. It's like I have to find something in order to sabotage it. I'm sure you know the drill.
I do, but what's a deal breaking flaw?
It really depends. They're too dirty. They're not dirty enough. Almost like whatever they present, I will crave the opposite. Because the deal, bad breath would be a deal-breaking flaw, but it's very rare that you run into that. Somebody who is, here's the one that's the worst. Judgmental, like for real judgment. Because I'm pretty out there about stuff I've done sexually, and if it's somebody who doesn't know my comedy, and then they start finding out things, and I get that, I had one girl tell me, we were having lunch, and she goes, that stuff you told me last night, you can never tell me that stuff again. I mean, I have my idea of what masculine is, and I just can't hear that stuff. And I wasn't even mad at her, but as we're eating lunch, I felt every ounce of fucking liking go away. And right. I just was done with her by the time we were finished with lunch.
Well, she basically
that will kill it for me.
Yeah, well, she just shamed you in a... it wasn't, it's not like helpful advice. It's like, you're not a man to me if you tell me that stuff that you obviously have done in your life.
Yeah, the shaming stuff, because I don't shame a woman about anything.
Yeah.
I don't care. I've had girls tell me that they wanted to fuck their dads and all this other great stuff, and some I've had to goad into saying it, but they do. But anything you come out with, I'm okay with. I'm not going to judge anybody's past. So when someone does it to me, that makes me instantly disconnecting. Oh, fuck you, man! That really is irritating.
Yeah, what I'm having a hard time with. I guess you're a little younger than me, but what I don't always understand after a certain point, I'm 52, I got no kids. I've been married twice. I've been through the fucking mill with everything. It's like I'm not sure what I need right now. What do I really want? Do I want to get married again? No. Do I want someone to live with me? Not really. Do I want kids? No. So what do I really want? What I don't understand what the hell a relationship is good for sometimes.
Yeah, I find it's like being greedy. That's exactly it. I don't know what I want because I know that there are enough people out there where I can get what I want, especially with Tinder and Bumble and Raya and all these fucking dating apps. It's not for lack of choices. It's the fact that I'm just a greedy motherfucker and I want everything, and then as soon as I get it, I throw it away. And I want the hunt again of something new. It's like I'm unsatisfiable. It's pathetic at my age.
Yeah, I wish I think I have a little of that, but I can't. I'm in a relationship, but so I can't really. I was never that that driven to sort of push the envelope sexually. But I do wonder. It's sort of like, isn't sex just sort of enough? I mean, if you don't want kids, you don't want to be married, you're not really capable of trusting people deeply or having real intimacy. Isn't there a point where you're just sort of, I guess this is the way I am. It's not horrible. So I'll just live this way.
Yeah, you start to resign yourself to like, all right, maybe this is as far as I'm going. This is the best it's going to get.
Yeah.
But I haven't even fucked in a while. Like, my dick's not even staying hard, unless it's an inappropriate thing. Like, it stays really hard through the entire experience. If I'm kissing a girl, my dick is hard through my pants for an hour, and then as soon as it touches her vagina, it's like, whoa, no, just panics and hides. So it's like I'm having this real, like, connection thing, because I'm not necessarily a performance issue.
Yeah.
I think it represents something, in, like, a connection or something really nice. And I just, there's a part of me that just isn't having it.
Yeah, you're despite whatever you're thinking, your dick is panicking.
Yeah, it's completely panicking. My dick is acting like it's been shamed. And it doesn't matter who I'm with. It has nothing to do with the partner, how hot they are, what they're willing to do, whether it's loving. It's not about that. I just can't seem to fuck lately.
From knowing you and talking to you many times, I can say with confidence that your dick has been shamed.
Yeah, it has been, and in some cases, it should have been. Not all shame is wrong. There's certain things I've done that a justifiable amount of shaming was given. Yeah. But it's the stuff that I shouldn't be ashamed of.
Right.
That I am, that just seems to wreck it for me, and I can't seem to get out of the pattern. Maybe it's because I don't want to. You know what I mean? Like, how they talk about, hey, liking lust seems weird? Like, I like being that way, too, and it's just like I'm not willing to stop.
Well, that's something I've been thinking about lately is that, I think my comfort zone is uncomfortable. That I think that the way I brought up, the way I felt as a kid and all that shit, that I generally felt a little awkward, a little uncomfortable. So that's really what I know. So that's my comfort zone. Like, I'm just, an uncomfortable guy in a lot of ways. And to feel comfortable is completely alien and not necessarily something that I can adapt to that well.
And that's the way it is sexually and every other way. Like, the stuff that might have turned me on when I was 15 or made me feel connected when I was 15 is just so far in the past, and my normal level is just so far above where it should be, and it just, there's no way to satisfy it.
Yeah, it's horrible. The ongoing hunger, then the relief, and then the shame, and then the fucking feeling of emptiness, then the boredom, and then the fucking relief again, The
boredom is the worst. Of all those things, I think the boredom is almost the worst. Because the other stuff, at least, there's okay, if I'm ashamed, I know I'm ashamed. If I'm angry, I'm angry. If I'm depressed, but the boredom, there's really no rational explanation for it. That's the one that fucks me up, because I'll go like, all right, she's a nice girl. She eats my ass. She's a trooper. She'll do anything I want. She'll talk any way I want. She'll tell me to wear panties. She'll cuckold me. She'll tell me she loves me. And none of it feels like anything, and I'm bored. So it's like, what the fuck do you want, idiot? She's giving you all this stuff, and you're bored.
I like the list.
Believe me, I cut it short. I don't want. There's a lot more on that list of great options. Talking dirty and being, and I talk about sex so much, and I hate that that's my thing, but it just seems to be the focus of most of my discomfort and my obsession. I just wish I could get out of that mindset sometimes.
Yeah, it's hard. So so you do an advice show now too? You do the Opie and Jim show in the morning, and then how often do you do the advice show? What's that called?
Well, it's just the Jim Norton show, and it's once a week. And the reason that came about a few years ago is Sirius gave me a raise, but they kind of wanted, how they say you got to work for it.
Yeah.
So they said, why don't we do a music show on the Ozzy's Boneyard channel every night, which you pre-record,
right,
and a once-a-week advice show. So it started as it's a goof. I'm like, all right, I'll just fuck around. Some callers will call in. But then people started calling in with real stuff. Like, it's not that I'm sitting here like some douchey guru. The whole thing started as a goof, but then they'd be like, hey, man, I want to get sober, and I want to do, they would have, legit things.
Yeah.
So I guess it's kind of, everyone understands that I'm flawed, and I tell the truth about myself, so I think people kind of like that, as opposed to being like Dr. Laura, where you're sitting there like this twat on the mount telling everybody what's wrong with them. I kind of come from the same place that you'd probably come from, which is, look, I know I'm flawed, I know I'm damaged, I've learned certain things, and maybe this will help.
Yeah, I'm not a professional, but I went through this, and this helps me.
Yeah, and I think people like that.
Yeah, they do.
I think they like the lack of perfectionism in the advice or the suggestions. And I like a lot of times they'll tell them, I don't know, man, I have no experience with that, and here's what I might do, but I can't be truthful. People like once in a while when you say you don't know, because at least they know that you're not coming from a place of being, holier than thou.
Yeah, you can say, I don't know. Maybe let me see. Let me see if I can get your phone number or look it up, because you're fucked up in a way I don't even understand.
Yeah, and by the way, let me see if I can get your phone number. You've actually taken it one step further than I ever.
Exactly.
You've done more work in that than I've ever done. I've always just said Google it. I have no idea what to tell you. I don't like people ask about kids.
Yeah.
I don't want to give first of all, if you take Jim Norton's advice with your children, you're fucking ridiculous. Like, my baby's choking. What do I do? Like, dude, I don't know what to tell you. Fucking call someone who knows. I don't know how to handle that.
You better do something quickly.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it depends on how you feel about kids. You might say wait an hour and see how it works itself out.
Oh, fuck. Well, that's fucking great. So you're doing a show here in L.A.?
Yeah, I mean, L.A. is always a frightening one for me. Because
what date is that? It's next Friday?
Next Friday, or is it Thursday? I think I'm doing the Novo on Thursday, and I'm doing Vegas, the Mirage on the Friday. I should probably know my own dates. I understand the value of a plug, and I understand how it's done and how you should be prepared. And I see these guys, they come in, and they have no idea. And I'm like, what dopes? They don't know how to plug. And then here I am. It's May 26th at the Novo. Here I am, and I don't know exactly how to plug. I almost feel embarrassed or ashamed plugging. It's like, especially with a friend. Like, when you're doing it with someone you don't know, it's a disconnected experience. You're like, yeah, these are my dates.
Yeah.
But when I'm talking to somebody I've known for 20 years, it's almost like, and I'm going to be here, and it's just off. It's just, I don't know how to do it.
Well, I mean, you're talking to the right guy. So you're in Los Angeles on May 26th, in Las Vegas, May 27th, JimNorton.com. But I mean, I'm the same way, but now, like, I get this weird thing where, like, I don't ever expect that I'm going to sell out or a lot of people are coming, but I do want the people that I know like me to come. Like, I don't know how many that number is, but I want to make sure all the ones, that if they're out there and they're not quite paying enough attention. Like, cause I get sick of the thing where you got the biggest fans in the world and you promote on every platform available, and then you leave the town and, 2 days later they're like, I didn't know you were coming. It's like, what the fuck do you want me to do?
How can I let every person know individually? Louis' mailing list seems to be the way to go, and I guess if I had one the size of him, that'd be a good way to do it. But I don't know either. I get the same ones. When are you coming to Philly? It's like, I was there 2 days ago, you fucking non-fan. Where were you? There's no way to tell everyone, so I just try to, you know how it is, man. You get out there, you plug as much as possible, and there's so many forms of entertainment, you just hope somebody's interested. And you're right, the ones that show up, I just want them, the people who like me, I want them to know I'm going to be there.
Exactly. And what? How's the material? You feel good about it?
Yeah, I'm going to shoot it at the end of July. It's one of those things, I get so sick of it. And my curse has always been, it's like a little bit too topical, so like a year later it doesn't feel as relevant. So I'm trying to keep it, I talk about obviously Caitlin and my whole opinion and experience in that world, and I'm trying to keep it fairly evergreen so it's not something contingent upon the Vanity Fair cover. You know what I mean? Like, I'm talking about that, and obviously the Trump thing I'm trying to keep very, very something that could be watchable in a year or two.
Well, maybe what you should do is because the last special I did, it was almost all evergreen, because you don't know when the hell people are going to watch it and where they're going to watch it. Maybe you should do a scenario with the Trump thing and do a few jokes as if he's president. See how that goes.
I did think of that. I thought it'd be funny to tell the audience, this is what I'm doing, because I don't know when people are going to watch this, and then do a couple of jokes of Hillary being the president and a couple of jokes of Trump being the president.
You got to do that.
And just see how it works out.
Either that
or just be lazy and release the special with both, so I've kind of covered, all my bases.
Well, I think it would be funny either way. I think you should definitely do that. Do a couple of jokes with Hillary and a couple of jokes with Trump as president, and then leave them all in after.
Yeah, and just see what happens. And people go like, well, at least he thought it through. They just got lazy in the edit.
All right, buddy. Well, okay, so May 26th here in L.A. at the Novo, and May 27th in Vegas at the Mirage. I love you, Jim. And
thank you, Mark. I love you, and I'll be out there. I'm actually coming out Sunday, so it'd be nice to see you during the week, maybe in the afternoon if you want to grab some lunch.
Let's do it. Text me.
All right, buddy. I'll talk to you soon. Thanks, Mark.
You bet. Bye.
Bye.
Once again, Jim Norton, Los Angeles, May 26th at the Novo, Las Vegas, Nevada at the Mirage Hotel and Casino, May 27th. Always enlightening and relieving, and what's great about Jim is that, you can always pretty much, if you're like almost any person, you know that you're not as bad as you think you are, and you're not handling as much crazy bullshit that you get yourself into as Jim Norton is. And that's why he's so brilliant.
Come on, you had fucking Obama on.
I know, but it was funny because when we were setting this up, I went out of town when you were supposed to come out. You're like, I don't know if I'm going to... You had the president on. What am I going to do?
I was honest to God. Even now, I'm walking across the street. I'm going, Jesus Christ. He must be going, what the fuck? What am I...
Oh, no.
My producer doing?
I don't feel this. I don't feel that way at all. Because with me... that whole thing was an amazing honor. And as an American, the president says he want to talk to you.
Dude. Well, you're you know what I call you now?
What?
You're like Dick Cavett. Or, that's how I look at you.
Right,
one of the Smothers Brothers. Kind of a hip,
right.
You know what I mean?
Guy.
Well, that's a fucking great thing to be.
Yeah, but you were impressed.
Dude, I was blown away. I was fucking blown. I woke up excited for you when I read that. Seriously.
It was the only time you were excited about Obama.
That's exactly right. Trust me. He belongs in a garage. Listen, no, I was so excited for you. And I actually said this. I said to my wife, Marin, who's a friend of mine, I got a friend of mine interviewing the first black president, and they're talking about my old roommate, Louis C.K. It's not the greatest country on the face of the earth.
It
Are
is,
you
right?
shitting me?
That's so funny. And the fact is that, we go... I want to talk about your house soap, and maybe we'll work up to there.
All right.
Well, so you just got a good deal on something.
It's so funny. We were living in Tarrytown, me and my wife. We moved up to Tarrytown, and when Tough Crowd's on.
Right.
That's 15 miles south of where my present house is.
Right.
And but my wife's such a financial genius. We lived in this condo right near the opening of the Tappan Zee Bridge. You've probably been by it a million times.
Right.
It's a complex. And we were there for a couple of years. Tough Crowd was on. I had saved a lot of money even before then.
So you were not only a regular, but you were writing on the show?
I don't think I got a writer's credit.
You were there every day.
You're gonna laugh at this. What? Yeah, I was supposed to be on. They had contract for us, and I was scheduled to be on twice a week.
Yeah.
And after the second or third episode, I get called in by Comedy Central, and Colin, he has a serious look on his face, and everybody's talking in these cryptic. I'm like, what the fuck? Well, you've been making a lot of Jew jokes, and you don't do it with a smile on your face. This is an actual meeting. I go, what are you talking about? And they go, I said everybody was making Jewish jokes in that episode. Yeah, but you weren't really... I go, I want to see the fucking tape. Give me the tapes.
Did they show you the tape?
Yeah, I brought them home. People were laughing their ass off. But I was saying some over-the-top shit.
Yeah.
But so it was a big contract. Colin said to me he had to keep me from getting kicked off the show completely.
Uh-huh. So now you know who really runs show business. Yeah, that one turned out to be true, I guess.
Yeah, at least in Comedy Central. It was so weird. Colin's like... I remember he goes, I don't want you to be that guy. And I'm like, they were all these cryptic. I didn't know what they were talking about. Right. I go, what did I do? What does that mean? You don't mean the guy.
The guy who gets fired for
I guess so.
Jokes?
Yes.
Yeah.
And they were jokes. They were just that. It's the same shit we were doing at the Comedy Cellar table.
Yeah.
And that's the whole idea of that show.
That was why people loved that show and why it was probably a threat to everybody, is that it was jokes. But,
absolutely.
But it still got a little hairy.
And you know what? I know when I'm on stage, people have told, sometimes I don't say it with a smile on my face. You know me, I'm way too intense for my own good sometimes.
Well, it's weird, but you know when you cross the line.
Oh, fuck yeah. But it's fun. It's fun. And sometimes I don't think there is a line. Your line might be here. Mine's 500 feet down the road.
Right, but you know when it's not funny anymore.
I have trouble. I really have trouble going, was that just mean or was that funny? As I get older, I have even worse.
Well,
you notice you get jaded?
Well, I don't know what happened to you.
I don't know when the anger, became first and foremost. You know what I mean? Because I started with you.
I know.
mean,
you were angry too.
No, I was, and I think arguably not that funny sometimes.
But you're always on the right side of the joke.
I don't know if I was. When I look back at it, there were definitely jokes I did at a different time where it was meant just to see if I could get away with it. To push the buttons.
Right.
But if I really think about them, there's a couple of jokes I did where I'm surprised people didn't come up to me and go, "Yeah, I don't know if that's wrong-minded."
Well, but my stuff sort of goes against, the showbiz.
Right, but
I lean a little to the right, and that's not always very popular.
Well, that's right. That's true.
In showbiz. In the showbiz world we live in, but
you were always aggravated.
Yes, and then I know a little Vista,
Oh yeah,
before the show, you get bored after being at the cellar for 12 years.
I start cocktails.
Yeah, that brown liquor makes me fucking angry. Took me 2 cancellations to realize it.
That it was the booze.
It's still, I have to watch myself.
Oh, really? Because your brain changes.
Without me, and nobody would point it out to me. Everybody's
That's
like
hilarious.
afraid of me.
Yeah, right.
Nobody will point
you get
out.
a little intense.
Yeah,
but you remember, I think we talked about this once before, but probably a long time ago on the show. I did my first paid gig in Boston, opening for you in Algonquin,
in Maine. Yes,
at
Captain Nick's. You had just come off rehab. You'd taken a few years off.
Well, no,
right?
I was in L.A. and I came back to Boston where I went to school to start comedy over again. And then I think it must have been. I wonder if it's even before I came in second in that riot. And it might have been right before me. Barry Katz was throwing me some bones.
Yeah,
and that's when I met you. And you were up. Yeah, walk into that. I drove up to Algonquin.
Yeah. Captain Nick's. I went by there a few years ago. I think it's still, the sign was still there.
Really?
Yeah.
It's still open.
Yeah.
And it was in the bar area. I kind of remember it. You walk in, and the bar's on the left, and the stage is right there when you walk in on the left.
That's exactly how I remember it.
Right?
And you were all nervous because you had to do look, what's funny
half
is
hour.
How about you open for you? Now you're interviewing Obama.
I know. That's wild, right?
I get Joe Matarese on the show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But see, I still like the funny thing is the week after I did Obama, I did Rich Voss. I made sure that.
What the fuck am I worried about?
Nothing. You don't need to be worried about it.
He provided a nice buffer with Voss.
Well, it was funny because what am I going to do?
I love Voss.
Yeah, me too. I interview Obama. So what, has everything changed? Wait, how many things?
Well, I don't know about you. I thought you might be. You've really changed. We're talking about my personality.
Right.
You've gone the other way. There was a time when you and I had such negative energies, both of us. You'd walk into the Comedy Cellar and literally a rain cloud would form over that table and start pouring on other people, and you and I would just laugh.
I know it was true. And they were going the different directions, but I don't think they were essentially the different directions. I think that both of us are angry anyways.
Yes.
And the idea of having politics to sort of run it through is nice. But I think
that's like throwing gas on it.
Right, exactly. Yeah, I just think that we're we've got that attitude, and we can't hide it. Certainly,
that's what I like. And you and I, even though probably opposite ends of the spectrum politically, but we never really had a beef.
Never. It's terrifying. The idea of really having your anger pointed at me. I was like, it's great. He can point it wherever he wants, just not at me. I'm not going to do it.
I don't know. I'm mellowing out.
Age gets you, man.
Age gets you.
Ugh,
you can't. You know what I mean?
Horrendous.
Even now, coming down to the FDR, I was like bumper to bumper. I actually have a John Denver best of John Denver I put on now in my car. I swear to God, I downloaded it on my phone. So when I get in traffic,
to calm you.
I swear to God, I put on Colorado Rocky Mountain High and
Sunshine on my shoulder.
Sunshine on my shoulder. I swear to God, it's the funniest fucking thing.
Have you really?
It is. Well, yeah, I'll be singing along with it on the Colorado Rocky Mountain High. Then I'm like, get the fuck over! You're in the left lane. Get over.
As well as it helps. But so let's go back because I remember when I came back from LA, I was a little fucked up. I was trying to stay sober, and then I go there because I remember you were sort of like, "Hey, you did a pretty good job. You were supportive. You were nice. I think you had a chick with you. I don't remember who the hell that was, but you were doing your thing. But it was all about tuna sandwich, and.
Holy shit, you're right.
Why don't you put some more? Why don't you
mayonnaise
put
on it?
Sawdust in it or whatever.
Yeah, broken glass and dust. How the fuck did you remember that through that?
I remember jokes, dude. But there was a story about you that I always it's an inspiration to me. Because I don't know if it really happened. It was one of these road myths that you made a bridal party cry.
Oh, I've made a couple bridal
bachelorette parties cry.
Yeah. I got banned from the Comedy Works in Denver.
Right. That's where it happened to me.
Yeah. Don't sit the bachelorette party up front. I got banned from there because I guess the woman runs it.
Wendy, yeah.
Yeah, and I called the table. I gave him a chance. I always give the bachelor, you got to give him a little rope.
Yeah, right.
Get drunk and
right.
And then they just kept yelling shit out, and so I snapped on them.
Bad.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah. Call them a bunch of drunken cunts.
Okay.
And next thing you know,
they're crying.
Yeah, some chick gets upset and she's bawling. And she's bawling with a fake tiara on her head. Get out of here. And even worse, Mark, at the Punchline Sacramento.
That's the one I heard.
That's the one.
What happened?
That one got
Walk
really...
me through it.
Well, I was in no mood, even for me. Mm-hmm. I'm like, I shouldn't be out tonight. I don't know why I was just totally not in a good mood.
And you had to work. Was there a full house? That's a pretty
full house.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. For 2 shows Friday night.
Big room.
Big room.
Yeah.
and there's a bachelorette party once again up front.
But you know, like you're sitting off stage and you see them, and you see the middle, and you see the bachelorette party. You know before you even go on, like, oh fuck,
They were ruining the middle's act.
Right.
I was getting so pissed. Nobody was doing anything about it, and they were ruining his act.
Yeah.
So on my way up to the stage, some chick's like, "Take off your shirt." Yeah, and I'm not even to the microphone yet, and they're yelling shit at me.
Yeah.
And there's no doorman doing anything. I get up there and go, "Look, shut your mouths. You ruined the last guy. You're not going to fucking ruin my act." Back and forth. Haven't even told the joke yet.
Yeah.
And some girl goes, "You're a fucking dick." This is before I haven't even get to the microphone.
Yeah.
So then I snap on her, and another girl throws a beer at me.
Yeah.
Like a half a cup of beer.
Yeah.
Like right on my shirt.
Oh my God.
So I would go nuts.
Yeah.
Even for me, I go crazy.
Like you're frothing, you're bent over.
Bent over, right over. My face is an inch from the table, just
Yeah.
calling them the filthiest
Yeah.
things, wishing cancer on them.
Yeah.
Anything I could think of. And all of a sudden, other tables, some guys stand, a table of guys gets mad at me.
Right,
Like,
you
you
go-
can't
you
call
went-
girls that. I go, you defending these fucking whores?
Yeah.
And they start screaming at me. Now half the room, this is how bad I
chaos.
was.
It's chaos.
And I'm taking blame for this.
Yeah.
Even though they should have been thrown out before I got on stage.
Yeah.
Now it's chaos.
Yeah.
I have tables yelling at me.
Right. Because you didn't get them on your side at all.
Not
Right?
at all. Not at all. Not at all. Which I've learned since.
Yeah.
So literally, they're screaming at me. I'm screaming at them. Other people screaming at me. Right in the middle of it, here's the manager's idea for a resolution. He runs up and hands me a shot to calm me down, like a Rumpelmint. And I do it, and it gets even worse. Now people are leaving. Now people are trying to leave the club. When there was 220 people, I think.
Yeah.
It was a packed house. It was comedy was booming, like you said. And when all the mayhem died down, there was 45 people there.
Oh my God! Mass exodus.
Exodus.
You stayed in the saddle.
I stayed in the saddle, did my set. They were loving it. Here's the funny part. So the second show, between, I'm hanging in the back of the room, and people are being seated for the second show, and I hear people, the waiter would come over, the show hasn't started yet, and I'm standing in the back, and then I'm hiding behind the corner, and I hear people going to the waiter, "Hey, we heard the headline, it went nuts on the last show. Is he like a real fucking crazy guy?"
Because all the people piling out, see him waiting online in the hallway.
Yes, there was a line to try to get their money back. They saw people coming out of there screaming, and what was scary was, even after the second show was over, the guy comes out to me and goes, "We have to have security walk you back to your hotel because those guys, that first table of guys that was yelling, they're in a pickup truck." This is a couple hours later, waiting for me to come out of the club.
That place is in a mall. It's upstairs across from a fucking mattress store.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And then you got to walk downstairs to the parking lot.
I had to go to the mattresses.
Strip mall. Yeah.
Yeah. No, you're exact. It was. They had the security guy to bring me back to the hotel.
We got to walk you across the street.
Like you said, you mellow out with age. And I've had 20 bachelorette parties since probably. And I say to them, and they've been pretty good.
Yeah.
I think even clubs are evolving in that way.
Right.
But again, they still sit them up front. But I say to the girls now, I go, I'm flattered you came out to see me.
Right.
Even though you probably didn't know who the headliner was.
Right.
But I always say, why aren't you at Chippendales eating whipped cream out of a guy's ass?
Sure. Yeah, that one. Yeah.
Thunder Down Under, whoever the latest gay guys are dancing at.
Yeah.
So I go, but I'm flattered you came to see me. I don't know why. Why would you come? Your best friend's getting married, which means you're not going to see much of her for the next 50 years.
Yeah.
So this might be the last night you're out with her, and you're going to come to a place where you can't talk.
I don't really know where
doing?
the tradition was established. I don't know why they keep doing it.
I think it was Barry Katz management that established. That's how he gets.
The beginning of your career.
Yes.
No, but I get that. I think what they're really looking for is like, they'll make fun of her. So they expect us to do what we're going to do, but they don't realize that we fucking hate them.
Right.
And it's not going to be that fun for us. I mean, some guys may handle it better, but I'm like, oh, this is going to be a problem.
Yeah. I am flattered they came out.
Right. But I think that you and I, what you realize as you get older is it gets sort of exhausting.
Oh, exactly.
To fucking to do this defensive fucking
yes,
and it actually feels better just to do a nice show for people that want to laugh.
Yes,
but I think you and but I didn't feel this about you when you first started. I went into it defensively. When I started doing comedy,
insecurity,
of course.
Yeah.
But I was sort of like, it was always a fight to me before it even started. Before I even got up there, I'm like, oh, they're not. I'm done. Like, for no reason, so it was always a fight.
Yeah, you can talk yourself out of a good show.
Yeah, and but I don't think I knew how to have a good show. The fact that I was doing regional gigs in the Boston area was crazy. Me? Like, I watch you, like, you're speaking their language. You have the right accent, and I'm like...
Revere Beach jokes.
Yeah, but when you started, though, like, I don't remember you from Sam's, like, played against Sam's and shit.
I hung out there.
Yeah?
Well, Nick's was my home club.
Right. So, but when did you start, though? Like 87?
Yeah, 87. Like the spring of 87 was
right.
Like
so we were working a year in. That's the weirdest thing about those
gigs. That's how much stage time there was.
Yeah, because they had all those gigs everywhere.
Every restaurant and pub. I'll show you my book from my first year, over 300 nights. Like B.B. King, for Christ's sake.
Right.
Every restaurant and pub. On a Monday night, I'd be at a Mexican restaurant in Franklin, Mass.
Frank's in Franklin.
Frank's in Franklin.
With Drunk Frank.
Thank you. Next night, I'd be at the Holiday in Nashua, New Hampshire.
I remember that
Tuesday.
one. Yeah.
Wednesday, I might be back at Stitches. Thursday, I'm in Providence, Rhode Island, at an Italian restaurant.
Yeah.
Friday, I might be back at Nick's. Saturday, University of Massachusetts. It was every pub and restaurant in New England, ski lodge in Vermont. Remember all these gigs?
3 of them. Mother Shapiro's. BK Denny's.
BK, how do you remember? You're like
know.
Louis. You're like Louis.
We remember certain things. Somehow you convince yourself it'll be nice. It'd be nice up there in the winter. We'll go up. We'll hang out at the nice hotel. It's a nightmare. Mother Shapiro's is a fucking nightmare.
Mother Shapiro.
With that weird Jewish dude that ran the place, and there was that weird mixture of skiers and fucked up locals.
Yeah.
Well, I was there once, and some guy, like, basically, there was a group of fucking creepy-ass dudes hitting on my fucking, what became my wife, Kim. And I'm like, I'm no fucking fighter. I'm sort of like, let's just go. Get out of here. We were mostly working for Barry Katz's Boston Comedy Company.
That's right.
I didn't work for the Connection much. I worked for Mike Clark. I worked for Barry.
You and me both. I didn't work for the Connection either. Hardly.
I still remember Mike Clark's phone number. It's so fucked up. Like,
oh my God.
I still remember his phone. It was, you remember, he had the answering machine?
Yeah.
But so we'd go, and you never knew what you were driving into. Remember, Leominster? What was that? Pancho Villa's in Leominster?
Pancho Villa's.
Right.
I did it 2 nights in a row for some reason. A guy was yelling. Second night, he was yelling my punchlines. A guy came back to see me. He's yelling my punchlines out from the balcony. I went up in a balcony with the microphone.
You did?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Went up in the balcony. It was one of the first places that they had no wire on the thing. And went up there, and I'm like, who's yelling my shit out? And the guy raises his hand. So I'm interviewing him in the balcony.
Oh, my God.
Imagine yelling my punchlines out. And I'm upset at a club like that.
Remember Banditos? There was Banditos and Fall River. But like...
Your memory is killing me, dude. I thought you smoked a lot of weed.
No, I haven't done anything in a long time. I have selective memory. I can't remember some people's names that I've known for 20 years.
You can remember Banditos.
But you know why? And I realized this later because I had it with the Comedy Store. It's like where we were abused. It's like traumatic experience.
That's what I was going to say earlier. I know. You guys
it's like
repressed like a childhood rape. You're not going to forget that face.
Kinda, right?
Mike Clark's phone number is tragic to you.
Well, it was like I didn't know. I knew that I had to do the job, but like it's sort of fascinating to me, given my temperament and my mind, that's where I learned how to do comedy, was going into regional New England and doing it. And those not easy audiences. And
they weren't.
And I was a freak.
We didn't know how good it was for us. You know what I mean? To work that much that early in your career?
Well, that's how we learned. We
didn't know, though.
But we were able to skip over the fucking host spot. It was a gift.
That's right.
You're going to be a local opener that can't get bumped up to middle and then never get worked as a headliner.
Right.
I mean, that's what happens to those guys.
Right.
A lot of them do fine, but we literally had to do the job.
Yep.
You got these guys coming in from out of town or the colleges. The weird thing about the fucking colleges is that when we were doing colleges for Barry, he was, giving Anthony Clark and Eddie Regine the big money on the ticket, and we didn't know better.
That's exactly right.
It's like you go out and do the 20 for this in a fucking lunchroom, for $100, and fucking Anthony's walking with $5,000.
Yes,
we didn't fucking know.
No, we didn't.
We're just let's have the gig.
That's Barry, man.
Right.
Always with the.
He had me on his podcast, and he literally let me shit on him for an hour and a half. He loved it. That's the weird thing about
Literally?
Barry. Well, no. But I guess that's true.
We have it on film?
Yeah. No, but he likes you when you bust his balls because he knows he deserves it in his heart. So he gets a bigger kick out of being, busted on than anybody I've ever met in my life.
He's always loved me, right? Because he was my first manager.
I remembered the time that happened. It was like a mafia thing. Like one day you get this call and everyone's brought into the basement and he slides the papers in front of you.
This is how it went down with me.
Yeah.
This is my favorite Barry Katz story because it sums up his management style and how I was at Nick's. I went on in front of Dana Gould. Again, I'm only doing it a year.
Dana Gould's like 17.
Yeah,
at that time.
and brilliant, and
amazing.
And I'm up there doing raw stuff because I'm new. I'm probably being dirtier than I should be or whatever, and destroying, probably for all the wrong reasons, right?
Right.
I come off, Dana Gould goes on and starts bad-mouthing me on stage.
Uh-huh.
Now, I've only been in the business about a year and a half. I don't
Right.
know. I'm in a suit jacket, right? I still have my college football muscles.
Yeah.
People hate me just for that because this is a nerd business.
Right. Not then it wasn't. Not at Nick's.
Not at Nick's.
Yeah.
But I'm wearing a suit jacket. It fits me like a T-shirt.
Yeah.
You know? And I'm waiting for Dana Gould.
Yeah.
Because he's bad-mouthed.
Yeah, yeah.
As new as I was, I knew that's one thing you don't do.
Right.
You don't bad-mouth
The
comic.
act before you.
So he comes off, and he's coming down the stairs, and I'm waiting for him. I literally...
So he's walking out of the building.
Yeah, I grab him, push him against the wall. In the hallway at Nick's. And I go, what are you doing? He's like, what are you talking about? I go, you fucking... You know, saying I was hacking and just shitting all over me. Up there. I go, no, I don't start fucking trying to bull. I watched the whole thing.
Yeah.
Right? So then you know, I scared the fucking daylight out of him. I go over to play it against Sam's later that night.
Yeah.
I'm sitting there with Kevin Flynn. Barry Katz comes up to me. Now, Barry has signed Kevin Flynn already, Jackie, everybody but me.
Oh, really?
Yeah. He had already signed a few of my friends.
Right.
He comes up to me. He goes, hey, DiPaolo. And I hadn't even met Barry yet. I heard what you pulled. I heard the shit you pulled, like, with my client, Dana Gould.
Dana was with him?
Yeah, at that point. So I go, Barry, do you want to hear my side of the story? He goes, sure I do. Call me on Monday. And hands me his business card. So I call him on Monday. He ends up signing me. Is that not?
It's crazy.
Is that not? That's like something you'd see in a movie.
Right.
Like a sleazy agent.
Right. Yeah. I didn't sign with him. Like it was all, he did it all at the same time. He made this weird jump.
Yeah.
And he brought me into one of the rooms in the basement there where he was running in his apartment. Right? In Alston. And he's like, you know,
yes.
he gave me the pitch. He had the paper right there. And I said, look, I don't know what it means or what you would do for me, but I can't do it. I don't know what it means. What do you want me to sign? And I think in that run, he signed like Al Ducharme, Marcy Rose, Ed Regine, Louis C.K.
Yep.
Like he signed that whole first crew.
Yep.
Anthony Clark, because that was his big, I think, chip was like, Anthony's my guy. You know, like, and he had everybody. And it took all of you a little while to get rid of him.
Did it ever? Did it ever? We moved. I moved down to I moved down to New York with Louis C.K. He was my roommate. Barry got us an apartment on the Upper West Side.
Because Barry opened the club here, the Boston Comedy Club, and the idea was he's going to run his guys through there, and then he had that magical apartment.
That's right.
So
bunk beds.
Yeah, bunk beds. You and Louis, but everyone came in, right? Yeah. There's definitely some stories in that apartment.
And then me and Louis had it after people started coming. It was me and Louis. Oh, was that fun? Looking back on it.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, those are the good times. We wandered around New York City, me and Louis. Louis had no concept of how to use money. And we went out, we did the Punchline in San Francisco, me and Louis, for a week. Yeah. I've told the story on many. He goes, I'm going out, and we had a net worth of probably $1,200 between us at that point, right?
Yeah.
He goes, I'm going out to get a VCR. This is how long ago. I'm going to get a VCR so we can watch movies all week at the hotel. He's gone for like 4 hours, comes back with an $800 trumpet.
A trumpet? That's the trumpet?
Yeah. Yes.
Because I remember him buying a trumpet.
Yes.
Right, yeah. Yeah, there's a couple trumpet stores.
We weren't even making $100 that week between us, I don't think.
He bought a car out there, too, to drive. Like, he would buy cars.
That's right.
Places, and then
leave them on the side of the road.
Right.
That's why I love him. He's the real deal. He was screwy Louis, man.
Yeah.
And we laid in bed and we used to play this game. I took a shit so big, and then you do an analogy.
Right.
I took a shit so big it was worth 20 electoral votes. I took a shit so big I sprained an ankle, and we would lay there till 5 a.m.
laughing.
Just belly laugh. It was like a good comedy exercise. You know what I mean?
That's a funny bit. It's a funny because that doesn't exist anymore. You two in bunk beds like kids.
Yes.
Doing jokes.
Yes.
That's hilarious.
No,
and he had
those
his
are my
motorcycles.
fond memories. And he had a motorcycle that he almost got killed on.
And then he had cars here that he would wreck and park, and then eventually they'd just be taken away.
Somebody stole his Honda. Remember, he had a Honda Prelude when we first started. And somebody stole it and left it like 2 blocks from where he was living in New York. Oh, and he does a joke about somebody stole his watch out of the car.
Yeah.
And he saw the guy wearing his watch in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
And he goes up to the guy. And he goes, "Can you tell me what time it is?" And the guy looks at him, and Louis goes, "You got to push the button on the." That's one of his early bits.
So we all did at that time, because Barry was sort of Barry always helped me, but that was when you guys were in New York and they were shooting Caroline's Comedy Hour here.
Yes.
So we got to do that. We got to do the MTV weird 10-minute things. There was a lot of basic cable shit we all did.
Yeah.
When and why did you decide to go to L.A.? How old were you then? Because I remember there's this weird memory I have. I was visiting in L.A., because I didn't really move there until 2002. So I don't remember when you were there, but I was driving somewhere and I saw you walking across the street from a coffee shop or something in a mall somewhere. And I said, "Hey, how's it going?" And you were just sort of without even provocation, you're like, "I got fucked." I know that Tony Danza was involved. I don't remember what.
Oh yeah, I had a deal with Tom, but I didn't get fucked there. I actually made some money.
It must have been before. You were just sort of alone, walking.
That is perfect.
And you were without even how you doing, Nick? Fuck this place. Right out of the gate. I was like, holy shit.
I get really bad memory. I went out there twice. I went out on my own, in '93 for a year.
So the first wave. So you're like, I'm gonna do it.
Yeah.
And you leave New York.
Yeah, '93 and '94, and I got
with no deal, just to go.
No deal, but Rich Super would just sign me with Irving Arthur.
Right.
Which is a good agency, and he was my agent.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I went out there, and like an idiot, I find the place on Venice Beach, a basement apartment. I leave my girl from behind, Nancy, from Nashville, New Hampshire. Who Arsenio Hall had me on a show 3 times
before you
in
moved?
6 months. Had I moved at that point? I'm so bad with dates. He had booked me. I knew I was going to be on a show.
Right.
And my managers said, "Yeah, you got to move out
Not
there."
Barry, though.
It wasn't Barry. I forget who talked me into it, but I left my girlfriend behind. I was going to be a star.
Yeah,
like an idiot.
Right.
I get out there. I don't know anybody.
Yeah.
Rich Super's not around.
And you moved to Venice?
Venice.
So
because Rich was out there in Santa Monica.
So that's for Nick DiPaolo from, where are you from? Brockton? Where is
No, Danvers.
Danvers?
Yeah, North Shore.
North Shore. There you are. The entire world of minorities and freaks is at your doorstep.
That never bothered me.
And it doesn't. I don't think it does really bother you.
People. I got again from Tough Crowd. I said a lot of shit to Patrice, who was my friend.
Yeah.
I got pigeonholed. They're quick in this business. If you say
they're quick in this culture.
Let's throw that on you.
Yeah.
But you're right. I get out there. It was a culture shock. Yeah. But I'm living in a basement apartment. I want my girlfriend back, Nancy. Yeah. I miss her.
Yeah.
I literally call home. I kept calling their house. The father's answering at 3 a.m. I'm like, "Where's Nancy?" She's done with you. I cheated on her before we left.
Oh, you
New
did?
York.
Right.
So she's like, "No."
You're calling jealous or sad?
Both.
Oh, yeah.
I'm like, he goes, "No, she's out with a guy, Brian, down the Cape." And he goes, "Nick, you're not a bad guy," because he apparently was a wild man when he was younger.
Yeah.
Doesn't make you a bad guy, but I'm crushed.
Yeah.
I'm sitting in Venice Beach.
Yeah.
Mark,
in
I went 14 days without taking a shower. Fucking sitting against the wall. I got my wife beater on. I'm eating pizza by myself. Evan Grant. Do you remember Evan Grant? He worked in Brian Steinberg's office. Kind of a good-looking kid.
Oh, yeah. I do
Luckily,
remember him.
he was out there.
Yeah.
And a real player with the chicks.
Right.
He always.
Yeah.
He saved my life. It was like that movie with Vince Vaughn. What is it? Something.
Swingers?
Yeah,
No.
Swingers.
Oh,
it was just like that. Remember they kept dragging.
Favreau character?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was that guy.
Oh, really?
I lost 20 pounds. I was running every morning on that.
On the boardwalk?
That boardwalk out
Yeah.
Venice Beach, 6 miles. Mm-hmm. I fucking was ripped. But I wasn't eating. I was depressed.
You look good, though.
I looked like John McCain when they pulled him out of the Vietnamese prison. Hadn't shaven. I weighed 11 pounds.
Yeah.
I would just totally fuck I'd go home. I'd fly home and try to get her back. I'd drive up to her house.
Oh, that guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
with
it was
flowers or something?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I remember even my mother going, they picked me up at the airport, my parents. My mother goes, "I wish you'd act like a man." I act like a fucking man. I go, "That's how I get into this problem in the first place." my father's laughing. My mother's almost crying.
Oh, my God.
So I had a horrible, and then I moved back to New York, and then went out to.
But so that was it. So when you were out
For
there
a
in
year.
Venice, it just didn't. Nothing happened. You did Arsenio a couple times.
I did Arsenio a few
got
times.
depressed.
And Evan Grant, thank God, he was in my complex, and he used to fucking save my life. And one Sunday, I'm walking, just what you just said. I'm walking down the sidewalk with a miserable look on my face. Evan Grant's coming the other way. I step in dog shit. It's 108 degrees. The beach is closed because of gang activity.
Yeah.
And I go, "I'm out of here by Wednesday. Fucking watch me." He
Yeah.
starts laughing. Sure enough, I packed all my shit.
That was it. Dog shit and gang activity.
Fucking, that was it, man.
Yeah.
It just, nothing was happening.
So you flew back and you tried to get the girl back. You didn't get her back.
Couldn't get her back, and yeah, so I come back to New York, and
what the hell? What were your parents thinking? Like, how many brothers and sisters you got?
I got 3 sisters and a brother.
So
I'm
big
in
family.
the middle.
All Italian, all the way through?
No,
no.
I'm half Italian. That's the other thing, and French, Canadian, and English on my mother's side.
Oh, your dad's Italian?
Yeah.
And what? So you guys, you were a football player?
Yeah, I played. I was a captain at high school. My 2 buddies were tri-captains.
Yeah.
And I went up to Maine, and I tore up my shoulders in high school.
Yeah.
Busted up my shoulders. Had surgery after. Walked on at Maine. I was supposed to get a scholarship. That's another heartbreaking story. To University of New Hampshire. That didn't turn out. So I walked on at the University of Maine and earned a partial scholarship.
Yeah.
And played up there for a couple of years. But
Did you finish college up there?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
But best time of my life.
Was it?
It was there or BU. I couldn't decide where to go.
I was at BU.
Oh, you did go to BU.
I went to BU, yeah.
I didn't go because I
want to get out of town?
Yes, the distract. I go, and good. It was a good move because up at Maine,
I've been up there. What part of Maine?
I couldn't even focus up there on books, though.
Yeah.
I can imagine if I went to BU.
No way. What the hell? What part of Maine?
That's up by, it's called Orono, but it's right now, it's a little north of Bangor.
Yeah, far.
240 miles from where I grew up.
Yeah.
Fucking best time of my life. It blew high school away. I would do it again in a second. Fondest memories of my life, University of Maine.
Sure, you got all the freedom in the world to do whatever the fuck you want, and I guess you were playing on the team.
Not till I went out this spring of my sophomore year for spring football, and like I said, I walked on. They didn't know who I was, and I sort of opened some eyes. You know, Jack Bicknell recruited me, a guy that coached Doug Flutie at BC.
Yeah.
He was up there. I walk in there after having shoulder surgery, right?
Yeah.
I had atrophy to about 170 pounds.
Yeah.
I get the balls finally to walk into his office and go, "You recruited me," and I said, "I want to be part of the program." He literally goes, "Well, you can carry water and shit." He knew that would blow me out of the. I fucking what an asshole! Literally, he goes, "You could carry water buckets." I'm like, "This." I fucking excused myself politely and walked out of there. But he was right. I had a sweatsuit on. I weighed about 11 pounds. It's still Maine football, but the guys are fucking big.
Yeah.
And doing steroids and shit. And so, I was in no shape to play football. Took a couple years off, went home, got strong over the summer, and then a new coach came in, and I walked on, and it was fun.
It's weird when you think back of the fun times. But then it sounded like you had a good time living with Louie and shit.
Oh, my God.
But when did you decide to do comedy? Why?
It's the same reason I think a lot of us. Well, I was always attracted to it.
Yeah.
And I've heard other famous people tell the same story, but it was true. My parents would go, "You got to go to bed downstairs, watching TV downstairs." I'd go up and leave the door open a crack to watch Johnny Carson's monologue.
Yeah.
I was attracted to it.
Yeah.
And my buddies were funny as hell.
Yeah.
Boston kids.
Yeah.
My buddy Bob Murphy was David Letterman before Letterman was Letterman.
Right.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Went to work at a think tank, this kid. Graduated first in our class.
Yeah.
Funniest motherfucker I ever met in my life.
Yeah.
Another guy, Greg.
You still talk to him?
On occasion.
Yeah.
On occasion. That's the other sad thing. We go our separate ways.
It is really weird.
It bums me out. But that's what, So I was always attracted to the stand-up to the stand-up thing, and I'd see Jay Leno on the Merv Griffin show and go, "That guy sounds like me."
Yeah.
And it turns out he's from Andover, which is 10 minutes from where I grew up, right?
Yeah.
I go, "Wait a minute, I think I could do this." And then Bob Murphy, my very funny buddy, dragged me into Stitches one night, in the mid '80s, to watch Sweeney,
Paradise.
to watch Steve Sweeney at Stitches.
Stitches, interesting. Wasn't really his club, but yeah.
Yeah, Sweeney Meany.
Yeah. The Sweeney and Meany show.
Night.
That's right.
And it
Wednesdays or something.
We were blown away. Sweeney actually picked on me. Look at this good-looking giddy.
Yeah.
Tore me into asshole. And I was fascinated.
Yeah.
And this is why I think I believe in God sometimes.
Yeah.
I was a barback at Stitches before I was a comedian for like 6 months. Mm-hmm. I was in awe of Steve Sweeney.
Yeah.
I was afraid of him. I was so in awe. It was like Ted Williams to me,
Yeah,
right?
right.
I just moved to an apartment in Boston with my other buddy, Tony. I get drunk on St. Patrick's Day by myself. My buddy was working Faneuil Hall. He gives me like 11 beers. I wander out of it. It's not even 1 in the afternoon.
Yeah.
I get on the fucking T, and I get lost.
Yeah.
I'm over by Huntington, by Northeastern.
Yeah.
I'm wandering. I'm literally staggering down the sidewalk, and I'm thinking about comedy and Steve Sweeney and Lenny Clark.
Yeah.
As I'm thinking that, who comes stumbling out of a bar?
Steve
Sweeney.
So I guess he was drinking at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he goes, "You're the fucking guinea barber." He goes, "Come on, let's go for a drink." Dude, it was like Elvis. It would be you being a kid in love with Elvis, and Elvis comes out of a bar.
Right.
I told my parents, I don't know about God if he exists or not.
Right. That day.
Yeah. We go and he drink 2 Guinness and whatever the fuck. I drank with him all afternoon. Now he goes, I want to go to Avenue B. It's getting dark. We get in a cab, we go to, South Boston.
Yeah.
Southie. He wants to score some coke.
Yeah, right.
I'm in the back of the cab with Steve Sweeney, my idol.
Yeah.
Dude, I was hard as a rock. I couldn't believe what was going on.
Yeah.
We're in the cab. He goes, we pull into some neighborhood. It's getting dark.
Yeah.
This is on St. Patrick's Day night. They beat up Irish people on St. Patrick's Day night. Never mind, an Italian kid. Yeah. I wouldn't get out of the cab. Steve goes, here, hold my watch. I go, why do I got to hold his watch? I was so naive. I go, why am I holding his watch? Turns out it was like one of the... He gets out of the cab. He's not out of the cab 10 seconds. 3 kids come around the corner, 3 guys with leather jackets. You couldn't have made a more stereotypical... 2 of them had red hair.
Yeah.
And they start chasing Sweeney up the street. They want to beat the fuck out. I go to the cab. Cab driver takes off. I go, what are you doing? You can't fucking leave. He said, fuck that. I'm not going to get killed in this.
Yeah.
And then Sweeney... I didn't hear from him the rest of the night or day. I call Stitches. They didn't know where the fuck... Comes in. I come in on Monday night. I'm working. He comes in. He punches me in the chest.
Yeah.
Like physically punches me in the chest. He thought I told the cab driver to take off.
Oh my God!
I was almost going to get a fight with my idol. I was ready to fucking.
Well, I'm glad he lived. Like what the hell happened?
The last I saw of him, I looked out the window of the cab. Honestly, he's sprinting, and he had shoes on, not sneakers. He's got shoes on, and 3 guys are chasing him.
It must have been an old deal.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There was some history there.
Yeah, right.
There was some history.
They're like,
there.
there's that motherfucker.
Right away, they came after him. And he's the godfather of South Boston, for Christ's sake.
Yeah.
How's that for a story, though?
It's great.
He comes out of a bar. I'm lost in Boston. I'm over by Northeastern. What the fuck's he doing?
And did that make you decide to do comedy?
It sure and hell didn't hurt.
Yeah.
And I used to try to be funny around him,
So, all right. So then you start out and you start doing the open mics there?
Yeah.
Like Stitches and shit?
Yeah.
Yeah.
George McDonald.
George McDonald's. Comedy Hell.
Comedy Hell.
Yeah.
I pulled up. I was drunk at my parents' house. My name was in the hat, I think, and they told me I was on.
Yeah.
I almost got in a fight with this kid, my roommate. I was living with in Alston, Anthony Seymour. He's an eye doctor now.
Yeah.
I met him up at University of Maine. He's from Augusta. Now he has practice like in my hometown.
Oh, really?
In a house in Topsfield.
What's the name of the town again?
Danvers.
Yeah, Danvers, yeah.
And so he confronted me one day. He thought I was the funniest guy alive. And he goes, and all these open mics, comedy was booming. He goes, you're a pussy. We almost got into blows about it. He was questioning my manhood.
Right.
He goes, you could be making a living, fucking, we literally almost got physical. So sure enough, I put my name in the hat at Stitches, and they're like, yeah, you're on Sunday night. And I'm like, oh, no.
Yeah, that feeling is the worst. We got 3 days or whatever.
Exactly.
A day, and you're like, oh, God. It was horrible. And when you did Sam's and stuff, you'd get booked like 6 weeks out. You're doing 5 minutes in 6 weeks, and then like for 6 weeks, you're like, oh God, it was fucking insane.
I went on at Stitches. My first line ever was an ad lib.
Yeah,
off the cuff. That's when George goes. That's when I knew you were going to be funny.
Yeah.
I was in a sweatshirt and jeans.
Yeah.
And I go up and I followed a guy in a tuxedo.
Who was that?
I don't know. So I went on after him, and I go, I was trying to figure. I didn't know what to wear.
Yeah.
All afternoon, I was like, what do I wear in my first comp? I go, I don't know. I didn't know I was going to follow Mr. fucking Saunders. That was a tuxedo local, and it got like a nice laugh.
Yeah, yeah. And you're like, I'm in.
Then my next bit was about shaving my sister's back or something. That went in the toilet. And then I did Archie Bunker being blown by a great white shark.
What? Well, that's pretty creative.
How horrible.
That was the seed of the Nick disposition.
But George said that. George goes, when you did that ad lib and it got a laugh, it was the first thing out of your mouth. He goes, I saw some. And then George would be on the back mic. Remember, just making fun of other open micers?
That's right.
How about Bob Nickman?
Nickman I still see with the hat.
Funny.
He was so funny. He wrote and did a lot of TV work, and he's a sober guy, and he runs the Yuckaholics every year. Him and Scheidner created this show that every year happens, huge show to benefit halfway house and stuff.
My favorite Bob Nickman joke, and he's the first guy I saw call a table of women cunts on stage. Mm-hmm. But my favorite.
It's a big moment for Nick. I'll never forget that day. I was like, if that's okay, I'm in.
I'm in. How do I get good at this? How do I get good at this? But one of my favorite jokes, he goes, I'd suck a dick. Not if it was like attached to a guy, but if it was like hanging off a wall. And remember he used to take the hat off at the end? And he'd have pigtails? He was a bald guy with pigtails.
Right.
His big clothes.
Yeah, that was the big physical
But he was
clothes.
brilliantly funny. They would kick me out of the green room at Nick's because I was the only one not doing blow. Gavin and Lenny would show up, Kenny,
Yeah.
and they go, "Hey, rookie, get the fuck out of there."
Yeah,
Because
we don't want you to see this.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember. Well, I used to do it. Yeah, but remember, like there was the green room, but then they'd close the place down, and then you'd sit there in the main room at a table
in
with
the main
everybody.
room.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's all dark. John Panette, I did coke once before I went on stage. John Panette, the late great John Panette, gave me a line of coke.
Yeah. And that was the only time you did it?
Before I went on stage.
Right.
Oh, I'd do it when I was at the Palace nightclub trying to pick up whores from Rivera. You had to do it.
Only in that situation.
Trying to pick up hairdresser from Somerville. You had to fucking give her a couple bumps. But God, I get chlamydia 19 times out of the Palace. But yeah, no, I only did it once before I went on stage. Panette gave it to me. This is a true story. I'm up on stage. I'm not even up there 5 minutes.
Yeah.
My upper lip keeps getting stuck to my teeth, and I'm tripping on my punchlines.
Yeah.
And I had my hand in my right pocket, and all of a sudden some guy like in the third row goes, "Hey, relax up there." I looked down. I was jiggling my car keys in my pocket like 100 miles an hour.
Hey, relax up there. That's the best heckle I've ever heard in my life.
Relax up there.
He's just like, dude, really, slow down. We want to see the show.
I hadn't done much coke at that point in my life to go on stage.
Oh, no,
and
it
I'm
was
new
terrible.
as a
Yeah, it was
comic.
terrible.
It threw off my timing.
It's a bad drug for
Yeah.
that unless you're one of those guys, unless it works like Ritalin. You know, like I was also like that. Like if I did coke, my eyes would bug out and I'd talk too fast. And I'm like, I'd see footage of me. I'm like, oh my God. And you're thinking like, I'm nailing this. You know, it's like a fucking disaster.
Now I take Advil PM.
There you go.
Slow me down.
Yeah, but like that's so funny. Hey, relax up there.
Guy yells, "Hey, relax up there."
He's being supportive.
It wasn't mean.
Yeah,
It was,
yeah.
and I looked down and I hear my right hand doing this.
I think that's the best crowd heckle I've ever heard in my life.
Nick's was a rough room at times.
Oh my God, dude! The one time I don't know how the hell I managed to get in with them, but I did. They worked me, and
Because you're a good comic.
Yeah, but like the first time I went up there for the guest spot, it was a really big lesson for me. Like I was waiting to go on, and you're just nervous because like the thing about me is like I couldn't be more different in my mind than that audience. A very specific audience.
They were
It was
very
white, sweaty, Irish,
Yeah.
tough guys.
Yeah.
Like from all over.
Yeah.
They would come in from Revere, from
Yep.
Saugus, wherever.
Yeah.
And I was already at odds. And Leary's on. Just like he was one of those guys where you didn't know whether he was killing or not, but there's a lot of energy going on. Like so, Leary's just like
Nobody
hammering.
more committed.
Yeah,
That's what I learned from
hammering.
watching him.
Yeah,
He could be dying, you'd think he was killed.
exactly.
Yeah.
But so whatever happened up there, it was Leary for 20 minutes, 15 minutes, and then they bring me on for my 7. And I'm thinking like I'm just gonna jump into his energy. So I start out like that, like I do like the first 40 seconds at this pace, and I stop, and they're just like, "What is happening?" And it just tanked. It was horrible. It's like 7-8 minutes of like that never-ending pain. And I get off, and Dominic's like, "Hey, how you doing?"
He couldn't even hide it.
Do you remember when it blew up? Like somehow, like Nick's had the main room, and then the dance club. They made a second show,
Yeah.
and you could do like 9 shows
Yes.
in one night at Nick's.
Yes.
You run downstairs.
Yes.
It was crazy.
Yeah, you do one up, go downstairs, go back up,
Yeah,
downstairs.
yeah.
Never leave the building.
Yeah,
And
it
make
was-
a nice chunk.
Yeah, big
What a-
chunk.
What a money-making machine that was.
And then they opened up all those other rooms.
satellite rooms. The one in Saugus is still there.
That was actually a good room in Kowloon.
Yes.
Like, it could really be good. It was like playing a theater. That was the first time I used the word cunt on stage, and it was bad. I used it right out of the gate, and it was a long half hour, that half hour.
I had a guy open his coat, show me a gun. I was
Yeah.
making fun of his wife.
Oh, really?
Big Italian guy. I don't know what I was fucking thinking.
Did you stop?
Big, sweaty Italian. Oh, yeah. He was sitting right in front. He goes like this, real quick.
Yeah, yeah.
Saw the butt of the gun.
Yeah.
And
That
I went,
was
hey,
it.
no
Yeah.
problem.
Love her. Good for you. How long you been married? Congratulations.
I didn't mean that about your dress looking like,
You're like a circus tent.
yeah, it's exactly. Nice leopard print.
All right, so you come back to New York and you get strong again, and
Yeah.
then when do you go back to LA? 'Cause
95.
Because that's when it really got bad. It seems, right?
No, I
95 was all
went
right?
out. I went out. David and Christine Martin were handling me. Brett Butler had
Right.
just landed her big thing.
Yeah.
And I was being handled by
Right, by the
same
people.
management,
Yeah.
and they were like, come out, audition for Brett show.
Louis was with them too, right?
Yes,
Or
he was.
briefly. Or
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
for a few months or whatever.
I remember Christine Martin going, Louis is such a liar. He lies a lot. I go, what are you talking about? I don't really,
Louis be the first to say that he did.
Yeah, exactly.
Then. Yeah.
So I went out and no, it was pretty good. I we all thought we wanted to be in sitcom world.
Yeah.
But
that was what we were trained to do. You become a headliner, you get a voice, and then you get your show.
Yeah, what better way to get that voice out there than be a sidekick on Brett Butler's show?
Is that what you did?
I played like, a worker at her place.
Oh, yeah?
I did like a half a season.
Wow.
I was there when the whole thing blew up. I watched it.
You watched it unfold?
Oh, my God. It was the funniest thing you've ever seen.
Yeah.
I still love Brett to this day, Brett Butler.
Yeah.
Borderline genius insanity.
Yeah.
One of those people.
Yeah.
I actually took the picture on the back of her book, her autobiography.
Oh, yeah.
I took the picture.
Yeah?
I went to Alabama with her to
Yeah.
research her book.
Yeah.
She calls me up. This is when I was still living in New York, and she had just become big.
Yeah.
Or I had an apartment. I was staying at somebody. I can't even remember. No, I was living in the Upper East Side.
Yeah.
She calls me at 1 in the afternoon. I'm laying there watching a football game. How'd you like to open me in the Westbury music tonight? I'm like, yeah. And who was the guy? Do you remember the Italian guy? He had a heroin problem. He was very funny. Did a stint on SNL real quick.
Oh, Vitali.
I
I interviewed him.
Did you really?
Yeah.
Loved Vitali.
It's
But
great.
he had a drug problem,
Yeah.
and he couldn't make it that night. So
Yeah.
I opened for Brett Butler.
Yeah.
And then flew out to L.A.
Well, Danny was probably trying to be clean. He probably just couldn't make it because he was too nervous. Like, I gotta. But on a
No,
plane.
you're right.
Yeah.
That was exactly the story.
Yeah.
The pressure sort of broke.
Yeah.
But I ended up becoming friends with Brett and on her show. And she flew me. She calls me when I was living in L.A. She goes, I got Tom Cruise's Learjet. I'm flying to New York. She was doing something in New Jersey. Next thing, I'm on Tom Cruise's Learjet with Brett Butler, flying back to the East Coast to open for her somewhere.
Wow, that's great.
Isn't that fucking crazy?
So you did a lot of dates with her?
I got a little taste of
that.
showbiz.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Just enough to tease me and keep me in the stupid business.
Yeah, I know. Sometimes you feel that way, don't you?
Oh, you shouldn't. I should.
No, but I came out I didn't even have that much success. I never got into that rotation at all. Like this only happened out of desperation.
Oh, dude, let me tell you something. I love doing this.
Yeah.
Radio's still my favorite thing. I like it as much as stand-up.
Oh no, definitely, because you have the freedom.
Nobody heckling you.
Yeah,
you can be funny conversationally. Right?
So so
you're an inspiration.
Oh, thanks, buddy. So you're doing. So you're working with Brett. So you saw that whole sort of like the. It's so sad. She used to write for the fucking Dolly Parton show. I mean, like her, like.
That's right.
I mean, like it's it's really interesting. Like, because a lot of people don't know about people who are what their life is. Like you remember, I was going to tell you, I just interviewed. Remember John Ridley? The black dude.
Yes.
He did comedy for like 6 or 7 years in New York when we started.
Yes.
And then he just won the Academy Award for 12 Years a Slave.
Yes.
Screenplay. But he used to be a comic. He never talks about that.
Every time I see that name, this is how stupid I am. I go, is that the comic, John Ridley?
Right.
It is.
Right. So I finally interviewed him just the other day, and I'm like, I remember you. I remember his jokes. He had smart jokes, great jokes.
Yes.
And he just he just shut that part out of his, the resume, out of his brain,
Yeah, childhood trauma.
It really.
Chalk it up to that rape.
Yeah, but he's doing okay.
I guess the hell.
He won an Academy Award.
It did, right?
Yeah. So, all right. So you do the Brett thing. You're out in L.A. What was the Tony Danza thing?
How did that even come about? I don't know.
It seemed to make sense to me.
It was Katie Face Production is the name of his company.
Yeah.
And before that, I got a deal. Do you remember a guy named Bill Gross that worked for the William Morris Agency?
I do remember him.
He was overqualified to be like a showbiz agent.
Right.
Because he was like a financial whiz or something.
Right.
But I'm with him for 5 minutes. He gets me a deal for $75,000.
Doing
I don't even remember with who. Newcastle or whatever the fuck. It didn't turn into anything.
Yeah.
Steve Paymer, David Paymer, the actor.
Paymer, I love that guy.
Yeah. Well, Steve Paymer, his brother, wrote a great script for me.
Yeah.
It was going to be like a Giuliani mayor, and I'm a childhood friend who runs his fleet of limos and shit. And
that's great.
It was a great story. Anyways, it goes nowhere. But I got to check out of that.
Right.
And then I don't even remember how the Katie Face production thing. They might have saw me up at Montreal.
Right.
But I ended up going to Tony Danza's house and sitting on the couch with Tony drinking Heinekens.
Yeah.
And he's telling me how much he made on Who's the Boss and how much it made the networks. And he's in his softball uniform. He just came back from the bat. And I loved the guy. He was so personable. He couldn't have been nicer.
Yeah.
And then I had an audition. That went nowhere. And about a year later, I had an audition for another show he was making. And I had to read with him.
Yeah.
And I guess I was like nervous because halfway through the read, he goes like this and wipes my face. And somebody said that's what they do to make you comfortable.
Oh,
like he goes, you got something on your face. He goes like this.
He licked his thumb and wiped your face?
Licked his thumb and wiped my cheek. Like I had some. And somebody told me, he
that's his trick?
Yeah, to put you at ease.
That's interesting.
And I was like,
wrong guy.
Put me at ease.
Wrong guy.
Christ,
Cleared his face. What the fuck's this guy doing? I want out of this.
Yeah, Tony. So I was at his house, and this beautiful house, drinking Heinekens with Tony. This is the shit that's cool. I mean, you sort of take it for granted. You know, I put that in the rearview mirror 2 seconds after it happened. What's next?
Right.
Now I look back on it. I go, dude, come on, that was kind of cool. Right. My wife has been in love with Tony Danza since she was 10.
Right.
To this day.
Yes.
I had to go take her to see his one-man show a couple years ago.
Oh, here, the cabaret show.
Yes. Yeah. It cost me like $550. After that show, I go, it was good, Tony, but Jesus Christ, it cost me half a nickel. He's laughing. My wife gets a picture with him.
Yeah, it was
she
great.
still loves Tony Dan to this day. It's the funniest thing. And, so in 95, I just met my now wife. Yeah. We're just dating. And I go, I'm moving back to L.A. Christine, David Marmy told me to go out there. Yeah. And she follows me out. I go, you can come out. I'm not promising it. We just met. Mm-hmm. She fucking comes out. Goddamn, thank God she came out, because, again, I didn't know anybody out there. Right. I had her over all the, you know. Next thing you know, she's decorating my apartment. And my wife I never had a chance looking back. Yeah. Never had a fucking chance.
That was the one. She decided.
She saw me on HBO, Young Comedian Special, and said to her sisters, I'm marrying that guy.
Wow.
And then she saw me on Jon Stewart's talk show, and I was plugging a date at Caroline. She came into Caroline's.
Which Young Comedian Special were you on?
The one shot in black and white in the 1850s. The one Dana Carvey hosted. Janine was on it. Oh. Listen to this lineup, Mark.
Spade, Janine, Kindler?
Not Spade.
Oh.
Kindler.
Yeah.
Kindler, me, Janine, Judd Apatow, Ray Romano, Bill Bellamy.
Bill Bellamy.
And Dana Carvey was the host.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Me and Kindler are fighting it out for last place. I think he pulled ahead of me with all his Letterman spots.
I don't know. Where's Bill Bellamy?
Bill Bellamy, he had a stretch of movies, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, it's weird how it all happens. But, you know, the difference, though, is when we're sitting here talking, is that we've clearly mentioned a couple of guys where, like, they disappeared. And the weird thing is that the real dudes, the ones that can't help themselves, they find a way.
Yes.
You find a way.
Yes, you do.
And you know, hopefully it's not too embarrassing.
You know, it's a good point.
You know what I mean?
It's like,
hopefully you can live with it, or you're delusional enough to think that everything's okay.
Right.
You know?
Right.
It's fucking
it's
crazy.
It's been good to me.
No,
this
definitely.
This has been good to me.
No,
and it still is.
Yeah, and people, you know, respect you and like you. And Louis, like, I love when, you know, like, Louis uses you in the show all the time.
And he doesn't have to do that.
No, but it's a friendship.
And you don't have to interview me.
Yeah, it's a friendship. No, we go way back. I mean, way back, dude.
Yeah, Louis is
25
generous.
Years already.
This business has a lot of generous people in it.
Oh, it's a real, like, when you come up with people and you have relationships with people, I don't know any better people. And the thing about it is, it's not like normal life. It's like, you know, it's almost like we were all in the same war together. And when we see each other, they're like, holy shit.
I remember when you lost that arm.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. That's a bad night. Bad night. You doing all right? Grew back. Look at that. You got your arm back. That's right.
You were holding the mic with the other hand for like 4 years.
Yeah, it was your hook. It's almost sad it grew back. Yeah.
No, it's been very good. Look, 2 weekends ago, 3 weekends ago, I was at the Ridgefield Playhouse.
Yeah.
It's in Connecticut.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful venue. 350 people paid $30-something to see me.
Yeah. Yeah. Good show?
It's my favorite show.
Yeah.
And I told him next time I shoot something, I don't care if it's an expensive place, I'm shooting at that theater. It was fucking beautiful. People on the balcony, it was full down the
Coming
bus.
to see you.
Coming to see me.
Yeah.
They paid and you know, and they listen. No waitresses, no, you know, the theater's how nice it is.
Right.
They're hanging on every punch. Shit, I mumble under my breath. A tagline. They catch that.
It's the best.
It was so, and I was home by 11:15.
Yeah.
And I get paid for what I get paid to do a club for a week. You know?
It's the best.
I mean, I can't complain.
Do you have that moment?
And I do anyways.
With it, like, now that I'm doing, like, bigger venues, I'm still nervous about it. But, like, when you start doing door deals at comedy clubs and you realize, this is what these fuckers were making when I was starting out. Like, I remember when I was headlining comedy clubs and no one knew me and I was making $1,500 for Wednesday through Sunday. I'm like, I did it. I made it.
Yeah.
And then you do a door deal and like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
You mean 20 years ago were these fuckers doing that?
I know.
And then you wonder, like, why, well, that guy's still on the road. Yeah, because he's doing door deals. He's making a fortune.
Yeah. I wish I was, that's all I want out of it. Mark, that's all I want at this point. Stand-up is still, I hate the flying and all that shit.
Yeah.
But being on stage, it's as fun now, if not more, than it was I don't know how many jobs you can say about that than it was when I first started.
Oh, me too, yeah.
But I just want to put asses in the seats at this point.
That's what it really comes down to.
That's all I want to do.
Yeah, yeah.
And like I said, that Ridgefield thing just reinforces that experience I had. My second, I was there a year before.
Well, it's beautiful now because you got the podcast and you got visibility, and Howard loved you and the thing is you do have people that like you and they come. It's just getting them there and getting the gig and
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And
I think what's interesting about you is a lot of people don't know this, and we know it because like your public personality, once you decided to be completely opinionated, might alienate people,
Sure.
But you have your people, and I know you like to alienate people. But like I still know you, and Louis still knows you. Like you're a sweet guy, you're a good-hearted guy, and you wrote for Chris Rock. I mean, I don't think people realize that that the difference between an act and the difference, what you're doing and how aware you are of it.
Well, I'm not even. Yeah, and I look, sometimes you have to do shit to get noticed.
Yeah.
I noticed, everybody thinks one way politically in this business.
Right.
I'm going to swim upstream.
Right.
Sometimes bad publicity is good publicity. Mm-hmm. And the tough crowd experience was good and bad for me.
Right.
It got me noticed.
Right.
And there's a lot of people who think like me, and they still do.
Right.
But like I said, we live in a time where, to be an opinionated white male,
right?
Shut your mouth and swim with us.
Oh, a little bit though, but I understand that point of view. But I think that when it comes down to doing comedy, that on your best night, you're talking to a crowd that likes you, and you're having a good time. You're not up there just spewing anger,
right?
You know what I mean?
I went through that phase.
It was scary phrase. I frankly, there was a period there. I think it happened to a lot of guys, right after 9/11. Like everything sort of snapped into place.
That's a good point.
And
good
the
point.
anger, had a depth to it, and it kind of unleashed a thing. But you were kind of scary for a couple of years.
Oh, maybe. Nobody will tell you though.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Nobody.
Well, that's because we're comics.
Quinn will. Colin Quinn's my best friend in this business.
Yeah.
And when he would hint, it's like having like your family member finally sit you down or whatever. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So he's like a father figure.
Yeah.
That's when I started going,
what did he say?
Shit. Well, just, I'm afraid he goes, some of the, I'd have meltdowns at the Comedy Cellar.
Yeah.
A lot.
Right.
And he goes, I'm just afraid that'll come back to bite you in the ass.
Yeah.
Eventually or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And I sort of knew that myself, but
right.
it's fun to walk that, see how far I can go.
Right.
Part of the, you know what I mean?
But you said the booze will make it worse.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I'm not like, I didn't drink like David Tell did in his prime or whatever, or Artie Lang.
No, but you just one of those, like when I drank, you get, something else turns on.
Like they say, and you probably know this from rehab, but it's not how much, it's what it does to you.
Yeah.
How it changes you.
Yeah.
And I'm not blaming it on that because I'm not a fall down drunk, but
right.
I actually, Noam, the guy who runs the Comedy Cellar now, he, about a year and a half, 2 years ago, he goes, look, you know how me and my father love how you stick your thumb in the eye of political correctness. But he goes, you're even making it hard on us now. And you know what? I didn't argue one point of his. I said, you're right. There's some nights I leave here feeling bad.
Yeah.
How I turn the room into
Yeah.
I feel bad about driving home, what I did or whatever.
Right.
That's how I know it's not right.
Right.
I have since sort of like kept distance from that room.
Right.
Just to give them a break.
Right.
He wasn't going to suspend me, but he's getting a lot of angry emails.
Yeah. Isn't that weird though, that whole, because I do that, like there's a couple reasons that happens where you actually feel bad. You knew that, that you did something.
Oh yeah.
Fucked up. And it's a real feeling. And like I get it now. Sometimes I get it where like, when you're doing a room and you hear where the laugh is and you're not going to get higher than that.
Yeah.
Like it's level.
Yeah.
It's just the audience. It's not even anything you said. But there's part of you that's sort of like, well, I'm going to have to push harder. You want the reaction one way or the other.
That's right.
You want to connect. You want to wake them the fuck up or do something.
Right.
Like sometimes when I'm bombing, or not bombing, but not doing as well as I want, I won't get off stage. I'll stay up there for 2 fucking hours because the one thing I don't want them to leave saying is like,
he's a quitter.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, all right, so this is where you're going to be? Then I'm just going to stay up here and at least get your money's worth of something. But there is that feeling where, you crossed a line. You're like, fuck. And then you sort of like, there's something about that weird guilt or self-hating thing that like it happens a lot. It's kind of compelling. I'm not sure what it is. Maybe it's the way we feel better about ourselves. I don't fucking know what the fuck it is.
I know something was wrong when I got an apartment on the Upper East Side right before I moved to L.A. and here in New York.
Yeah.
Nick's Diner was right across the street at the corner.
Yeah.
I used to eat breakfast. my first week in the apartment, I go over there to have breakfast.
Yeah.
Waitress, she goes, "Are you a comedian?" And I go, "Yeah." I go, "How'd you know that?" She goes, "You call me a cunt at the Comedy Cellar like a couple months ago." Oh, no. I go, "Don't spit in my eggs. Please don't spit in my."
Was she? Did you?
She laughed about it. Yeah. I go, "Look."
Yeah.
I go, there's no way to apologize. I go, but yeah, that's happened more than you realize. It's more common. It's not
Don't
just
spit in my eggs.
Don't spit in my eggs, please. But but now, like my last hour I put out, I was never
Another Sense was killing.
Yeah, Another Sense is killing. Go to nickdip.com.
Yeah.
It's selling well, man.
Good.
Thanks to I went out to L.A. did Corolla, Rogan, and Fitzy, but it's selling well.
Good.
And on that, I was never a political comic. But like Colin Quinn, and I've said this on every podcast I've been interviewed on. Quinn said it best. He goes, "No, you're not a political comic." He goes, "But Nick, you could be telling a joke, a McDonald's joke, and people know how you voted."
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
So I am not a political comic. But,
is your parents still around?
Yeah.
How'd they feel about everything?
Well, it's kind of sad. My dad was just like diagnosed with Alzheimer's like last December. He'll be 80 in October, and he's happy. But he tells me now how proud he is. He never did. You know what I mean?
Isn't that interesting? They get softer and they get
Yeah.
So the Alzheimer's, he says it and then he claims not to remember.
Exactly. I go, can you recite one of my jokes, Dad?
Yeah.
He and my dad was the funny guy.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the other thing. People ask my influence. I used to watch him riffing at a cookout with my parents' friends.
Yeah.
My parents' friends would be doubled over.
Oh yeah, what did he do?
He would just like
what was his job?
Oh, he was a business controller. My uncle owns a very successful machine shop, tool and die.
Yeah.
My father's the bookkeeper.
Oh yeah.
So
he was a funny guy.
He was the funny guy. And I used to see him riffing and making these people double over.
Yeah.
Even he always had funny cracks watching TV, but he always laughed at shit that was inappropriate.
Right.
He always found the dark. I tell a story about on Another Sense is Killing. We're at McDonald's. We're kids. I'm probably 8 years old in the back of a station wagon. The whole family's packed in there.
Yeah.
Like an old lady came out with a tray and she slipped on some ice and fell. And my father's laughing his balls. He went out and helped her up.
Right.
That's my dad. He was belly laughing before he got out of the car and helped her.
And she was all right.
And we're all pointing and laughing, just following his lead.
Well, it's funny when it's fake, and why wouldn't it be funny if it happens in reality?
No, exactly.
Yeah.
So he was my dad. This stuff. So he'll be 80. And my mother's like 78.
And they're proud though. They
my dad
did all right. They're happy when you make a living. I think most of the time they're worried.
No, exactly.
Yeah.
And I'm living in a nice house in Westchester. I mean, it could have been worse. You know?
Dude,
right?
Yeah, I've seen it. I've seen it. It's like it can get really heartbreaking and sad. And you and I have both been through that. This is the one thing that it's not. There's not many people that don't who don't pay their dues that get really big and hold it. But
right.
and we've all had hardships. But they're the sort of the rejection and heartbreak of having those moments where you really don't know if it's going to work out.
Yes.
Like at our age, because I had that when I started the podcast, where you're like, I can't. What am I going to do? What am I going to do? Are we going to enter the job market at 45, 46? There's nothing.
I still have this conversation.
You do?
Yeah. I mean, 50. I'm 53. And,
yeah.
It's like I said, thank God for gigs like Ridgefield. Shoot that energy back into me.
Yeah.
And my podcast is going. I've only been doing it 2 years, and it's always in the top.
It's great
on iTunes.
Yeah.
And I still, I still love radio, and I got people working on it. I really think that's where I'm going to end up.
Well, you don't have to go to radio and just keep elevating the podcast.
Well, yeah.
Maybe what you do.
You're the only one that's figured out how to monetize.
Yeah. Well, Well, you can monetize. It's just about numbers.
But everybody. I always say this because my web guy would be pointing to Joe Rogan and Adam Carolla. I go, they were famous before they had their podcast.
Right.
You understand?
Yeah.
I go, Marin is the best example of a.
Yeah. Didn't know. Yeah.
Well,
no one knew me.
You'll teach me how to monetize it.
Well, no, I can't tell you that. But what I was thinking though is that maybe you get to a point where you can have some sort of situation in the city where you drive down to interview people.
But you think the key is having.
No. I don't think so. The key is really just figuring out who the hell knows how. of getting people to the goddamn thing.
That's right.
There's still a lot of people don't even know how to do. It's like some big fucking question. Like podcast. How the hell do you? What do you mean? You turn your computer on? You have a computer? You fucking idiot.
I know. It's getting easier every year to find.
And it ultimately will become easier. But yeah, we can talk about that. But I'm glad you're doing all right, and thanks for talking to me.
Are you kidding me? It's just like I said, man. I'm really impressed that you did it with the podcast.
Yeah, I know. It's a good one time in my life I had good timing, career wise. The way you don't know how the hell it's the one thing no one can manufacture. You see a lot of talented guys. You're like, why the fuck didn't that happen?
Yeah.
It's like because the shit didn't line up. The thing that we don't have any control over, is sometimes the thing that's going to turn.
That's right.
I just happened to get in. I had a certain capacity for radio, and it was just at the beginning of this thing. And my show grew with the medium. Like no one. It was there was a few guys doing it.
Yeah.
But it wasn't like a thing.
Yeah.
And it just turned around.
Yeah, well, I mean, a zillion people are doing it, so you got
That's
something.
Right,
Seriously.
Right.
I keep feeling like career-wise, I feel like I'm on the old Let's Make a Deal show. I keep picking the wrong curtain.
Yeah, I know. Oh, the cow.
Wah, wah, wah. 4,000 cans of dog food. Wah, wah, wah.
But you seem better personally, which is good.
Yeah, I am.
You got a little peace of mind.
I got a wife that sort of smooths me out,
Yeah.
and keeps my anger in check, and
yeah,
she goes, don't call him back and leave that message. You're going to cost yourself 20 gigs.
20 gigs. I don't want you sitting around the house.
I have tweets, Mark. I've had tweets where my finger's an inch from the button.
Yeah.
I could commit showbiz suicide if I hit this tweet.
Yeah. And she goes, what are you doing?
I'm like a suicidal guy with a gun to his head. Go ahead, I'll pull this fucking. Say one more word, you'll be living back in that one bedroom in Queens.
Yeah, she has like parental controls on your computer.
Yeah, no, exactly. I'm like a child who wants to see porn.
Well, it's great seeing you, man.
Thanks, Mark. Appreciate it, brother.